hosts John Kincade and Andrew Salciunas. 97.5 The Fanatic, Philadelphia.
We appreciate you getting in early with us today. It's Kincade and Salciunas on The Fanatic. John Kincade, Connor Thomas in for Andrew. Andrew will be back on Monday. I understand Andrew feeling a little better, which is great. And hopefully you are going to have a great weekend. Sean Rodman in for Connor. So yesterday the news broke during Unfiltered. And let's just say, Connor, you and I had a great show planned for today. We had no sports last night locally, so we were like, oh, good, we're going to talk about this, we're going to talk about this, and then all hell broke loose right in the middle of between my first class and my second class.
Now we have a better show planned because while this is not good news for the Phillies and a lot of stuff to unpack with the Nick Castellanos release, it's certainly compelling.
It is compelling news, and that's where it starts, is the Phillies make the decision to part ways with Nick Castellanos. And let's get some things out of the way, because one of the things that I think is important to do on a day like this is there are people, and I am victim of this sometimes myself. So I'm not pointing fingers. If you're in our YouTube audience, we appreciate you getting in early. If you're listening on the app, we love you being there. We hope you stay all morning long. I do this myself sometimes. You come in and out of conversations and you don't understand where people sit on the conversation. So it's important that we set parameters early so everybody understands nothing gets misled. I do not find, with the data we now have, I do not agree with anyone who finds Nick Castellanos to be a sympathetic figure here. You agree with that?
Totally.
Rodman, you with that?
Yeah, agreed.
Okay. I do not find him to be a sympathetic figure. Now, that does not mean that I see Nick Castellanos as the Antichrist either in this story, as he is 100% the villain and the Phillies are 100% the good guys. But Nick Castellanos is the one who ruined this relationship.
He might have not even given the relationship a chance to get off the ground with some of the reports about him not even wanting to be here in the first place.
I think that is absolutely astute on your part. It is clear that Nick Castellanos, it would appear from what we're hearing, that Nick Castellanos came in with, from the very beginning, with the, crap, I want to make the most money, but do I really want to be in Philadelphia? Can you find someplace else for me to be? Because that may be too much pressure for me.
Yeah.
That may be too much for me. So we all agree on that point. From the beginning, it appears Nick Castellanos might have come in with a bad mindset.
Here's exactly how I would outline this, just the base level cliff notes of what my argument's going to be. Nick Castellanos, good dude, bad attitude here in Philadelphia.
I think that's fair. I think it's very, very fair. Because I will also say, though, so nobody on this show, the three of us, right from the very beginning, because we even have people in our own building who will sometimes hear clips and then say, I can't believe what those guys in the morning are saying. Nobody is making Nick Castellanos out to be a sympathetic figure. Nobody is excuse-making for Nick Castellanos. And we all are in agreement that it appears from the beginning Nick Castellanos came in with an improper mindset to a job.
Yeah, I think we're all on the same page there.
We're all on the same page. Those things are facts. Those things are stated. No reason to mislead anyone on those. Now, though, Nick Castellanos gets released yesterday while players have already arrived at spring training. That, to me, is a Phillies error. If all of these stories are true, and I can tell you this, Matt Gelb, if you're telling me in the reporters in Philadelphia, reputations around Major League Baseball, Matt Gelb has an impeccable reputation for his work, his reputation as a professional, his reputation as a journalist, just for getting things right and for doing things the proper way. So to me, if Matt Gelb says it, I believe it, that he has sourced it, that he has done the proper checks and balances, and that is of the belief.
Absolutely. I totally agree with you.
He is one of those guys. But here's where I'm a little pissed off. So Nick Castellanos is released around 3:30. So?
Yeah, right. A little bit before that, actually.
5:08. A national story is released by Matt Gelb with a laundry list of hit list of things on Nick Castellanos. And again, I don't believe for 1 second that Matt Gelb made anything up or that they are not sourced well or that they're not true stories, because Matt Gelb is a professional I respect the hell of, and I personally really like Matt. He's a nice guy. I enjoy him a lot. But within an hour and a half, a fully sourced, complete laundry list, barrage hit list.
Yeah,
Here's all the bad things that Nick Castellanos ever did as a Philly comes out.
You're seeing 4 years of information within an hour and a half of a transaction. That means that this stuff has been existent and known about and is just now being reported. So I understand what you're getting at.
So what I'm getting at is two things. One, it's all been known, or it's just been sat on, which I don't like. Or two, the Phillies have known all these things, right? Because the story tells you.
Absolutely.
The Phillies have known all these things. The Phillies should never have let this go till February 11th.
I agree with you.
I did not know some of these things. I knew some of these stories in part. And I'm going to tell you some things that I've observed personally of Nick Castellanos that I feel tell a different side to the story too. But the Phillies blew this because this should never have gone till February 11th.
Absolutely. I agree with you.
They should have parted ways with Nick Castellanos in November. If all of these things are true, and again, Matt Gelb is not a clickbait guy. Matt Gelb is not a guy who is trying to get you to give him a bunch of likes on social media. He doesn't give a damn. He's a journalist, and he's a damn good one. The Phillies knew all of this stuff by the end of the baseball season. Nick Castellanos should have been jettisoned in November.
Yeah, let's just think about this from the bar of the best team in town, organizationally, ability on the field, everything. The Philadelphia Eagles, could you imagine 4 years worth of information on one player coming out where a situation was this untenable and they just stuck by him? Like, think about how we look at A.J. Brown and how you have the owner talking to him, and it's well reported. He's like, yo,
calm down. Stop it.
And that's something that happened, and we did see him stop with the tweets and everything. Now, the bottom line is this. The Philadelphia Eagles are proactive in making sure these situations don't exist, and we've seen them jettison troublesome players quickly in the past because they want to keep their team in proper standing. The Phillies, in this instance, let this drag on for years and years. And while you could try and say, oh, well, Dave Dombrowski's been trying to trade the guy for the past 2 off seasons, that's not good enough. Fix it.
Dave Dombrowski, now I know, and I will make a slight apology to Dave Dombrowski.
Okay.
Today. I now know, with some of these stories from previous years, why Dave Dombrowski's venom towards Nick Castellanos was seeping out in some of those postseason press conferences. Now, I still think he made a tactical error.
I agree.
By letting it seep out, by letting the public know, by letting baseball circles know how much he couldn't stand him. And I've talked to people in other baseball organizations that say, well, Dombrowski puts it out on Main Street that he can't stand the guy, so why is anyone going to trade for him? They're going to release him, or they're going to. So people knew. But I want to apologize because I'm a big enough man to do it. I understand now what Dave Dombrowski, some of the stories that he dealt with behind the scenes now, that maybe got some of that simmering under that he was trying to be professional, keep other things. And I understand now why Dave might have had some of that venom seep out.
Yeah,
he didn't want to.
What we saw was Dave Dombrowski giving a public slap to the face of Nick Castellanos. What we didn't see is the gun in Dave Dombrowski's back pocket that he wasn't using, that he very well had the right to with all of these reports coming out.
So I want to say that too, because I have been highly critical of Dave Dombrowski for that. Look, I still think he devalued his own asset.
I agree.
But there's a difference between thinking someone made a mistake and now having a greater understanding as to maybe why their frustrations were bubbling over. So, Dave Dombrowski, I think that that's important to have on the record. Look, Nick's no saint, and he is certainly Nick Castellanos is the villain of the story.
Yes.
He's the villain in this story, there's no doubt about it. But the campaign against him yesterday was transparent as glass. He is released, and within an hour and a half, you get War and Peace of every single thing that he ever did bad in his Phillies career. Don't be dumb, folks. That's the Phillies with a campaign to make sure that every bit of dirty laundry got out on Nick Castellanos. So I just want to give you a few counters to that story because, again, there's nothing that Matt Gelb reported that I am going to say. I know for a fact Matt Gelb is one of the best in the business, so if he reported it, that's good enough for me. But I also want to point out, go watch when Trey Turner got his ovation. When the fans were giving him his ovation to try to get his spirits going and everything like that. Who's the Phillies player up waving his towel at the thing to get the fans riled up and everything? What bad teammate was doing that? That was Nick Castellanos. When Orion Kerkering had the worst moment that a major leaguer has maybe had on a field in forever, and his other teammates walked like extras from The Walking Dead to the clubhouse, passing him by, some of them, Nick Castellanos is the one who ran to him to support him. And if he's such a bad person, why did the organization continually send rookies to stay at his house? Which happened multiple times. That seems strange, doesn't it? If Nick Castellanos is such a bad guy, why would the organization want guys coming up from the minor leagues that have no place to go stay at the house of Nick Castellanos? They obviously didn't think he was that bad. There's got to be some balance to the story. And the balance means saying it all. But overall, this is just a mess. And it's a mess, bottom line, that Nick Castellanos created.
It is. It's a mess that Nick Castellanos created. The Phillies perpetuated by keeping him as part of the organization as long as they did. I'll go back to what I originally said on this morning. Nick Castellanos, not a bad person. Bad attitude as a Philadelphia Phillies roster member. And those are different things. Like, you see videos and a bunch of stuff surface from the trip to Miami last year, and we're going to talk about the Miami incident, but the videos of that game and the games after when Nick Castellanos returned from suspension, how his teammates embraced him when he made the final catch up against the wall of like the win the first night he plays back. There were guys in this locker room that really did like Nick. And there's some times where we've all had it in work. I'm sure you have out there as well, whatever you do, where there's a person that's like, man, I like hanging out with this guy. I like having conversations with this person, but they don't really get along with the boss and it makes me kind of uncomfortable. Or they're not the best employee and I know it, but I can still like enjoy certain characteristics of who that person is. Again, I don't think Nick Castellanos is a bad person, but I just think he handled his time in Philadelphia in a poor way. And we've all been in situations where we're in an uncomfortable situation, and because of that, we act either out of character, we're stubborn, or sometimes to the point of arrogance. All of these negative characteristics come out when you're in a spot that you don't want to be in. It doesn't make your character completely in question, but it means you're not handling things as well as you need to be handling.
I don't understand, though, to me, I still can't figure it out, how in the world this was allowed to get this bad. But I think it's partially because of what I've always pointed out. The substitute teacher's in charge in the clubhouse. Captain Feelgood. He doesn't discipline.
It's so funny.
He doesn't discipline.
Because like half of this story is Nick Castellanos doesn't like Rob Thompson, doesn't like Kevin Long, doesn't have any respect for those guys, and he felt like he was slighted since he got here. And then the other half of this story is there are teammates who are like, why is this guy getting so much leash acting the way that he is? It's almost like there has been no standard for the way that Philadelphia Phillies players have been treated. And I'm all for right? I've played sports. I know. And you've been around teams, Johnny, and you've played sports. Like, star players are going to get treated a certain way. I'm not saying everybody has to be Bryce Harper or everybody has to be the Otto Kemp, right? There is a sliding scale of how guys are treated, but it has to be carefully managed by the manager and by others around the clubhouse and by the organization as a whole. And clearly, in Nick Castellanos' time here, it was not.
Like Bryce Harper telling people how to behave on the field, about antics, about throwing stuff and everything. But Bryce is allowed to do it. Bryce doesn't say anything to one player, says something to another. Bryce is allowed to have a temper tantrum of his own. Like, there's standards have to be set. Guys are allowed to not run the bases hard. Veterans. Charlie Manuel would have kicked ass on some of these guys. Not running out balls hard, not doing things. Charlie Manuel would have yanked you off the field. Captain feel good? Nah. Rob's just there, staring off. Here's the NBC Sports Philadelphia camera. Rob just stares off, doesn't pay attention. And I got to imagine that can infuriate people too, is that, hey, and as far as getting pulled out of a game for defensive purposes, with the poor defense the Phillies play as an organization, a guy who, and I understand when you're talking about errors don't really matter as much, but you're like, defensive purposes, dude, I'm not the guy making errors on this team. You got a bunch of guys, you're not yanking them out of games. I don't make errors.
Yeah, I can't give you that, though, because we know how bad defensively
Yeah, but you know that's it. Yeah, but the thing is making...
You're saying that's what his argument would have been.
I will tell you this. I'm going to ask you right now, because I pulled this with one of my friends yesterday. Can you tell me the playoff games that Bryce Harper made a great defensive play? That won, like, a critical defensive play that, like, helped to win the game for the Phillies.
I got to think back. I'm sure he had some plays at first base.
Can I ask you, can you remember where Nick Castellanos made some great defensive plays to help the Phillies?
Absolutely.
I remember 3 that I think of, maybe 4.
Yeah, but that's a very base level look at what Nick Castellanos is defensively. He's not a good defender, and I will not listen to any arguments that he is.
I would think a bad defender would make a ton of errors, for one thing.
Yeah.
Wait.
Okay.
I asked you, do you remember playoff games, the most critical games, where Nick Castellanos came up with great defensive plays that helped the Phillies win games at critical moments? Because I do.
Yeah. Yes, but it's different than that. It's totally different than that. First off, errors, you got to get to the ball. Second off,
I got you on that.
Plays that Nick Castellanos make look great, other players make look routine. Like what Nick Castellanos is doing in Houston, sliding in, sending you to extra innings, sliding in there is a play that some guys make on the run. Because
some guys do. You're correct. And some guys don't make it.
Yeah, he's the worst. Since outs above average has become a stat, he is the worst in the history of the number. And I know you roll your eyes. That's not one of these cockamamie
I'm telling you, the Major League Baseball general manager sitting around at the lunch table going, well, outs above average. They're not doing that. They're going to look. He is a clutch player.
Yes, that I won't disagree
He was
with
a clutch player for this organization when big plays had to be made. When a routine ground ball was hit to Trey Turner in a 4-0 game that the Phillies were leading in Game 1, a routine play that has to be thrown to the catcher. What did Trey Turner do? He blew it.
Yeah.
So I don't want to hear about a routine ground ball a routine fly ball that Nick Castellanos made look like a circus act, and he did in the one of them. He did make it look like a circus act. Trey Turner couldn't routinely field a ground ball, and it opened the floodgates, and it blew a game for him.
Yeah, but the realistic thing for Nick Castellanos is that the guy should have been defensively replaced a billion more times.
Oh, I would agree with you.
Yeah.
Now, you see, on that, I completely agree with you. I have no problem with
and that's why.
By the way, if you are a player and you are offended because you know you're not that good a defender,
yeah,
and you are being replaced for defensive purposes, many players even far better than you have been replaced later in a game. Now, Rodman, you made a face. Where were you falling on that when Connor and when I was given the option of, like, can you remember how many times Nick Castellanos made a big clutch play for the Phillies in postseason?
Yeah, I can remember, and I think a lot of people do, and I think some of those memories are fond memories, especially during those runs for a lot of Phillies fans. But a bad defender can make great plays. I mean,
no, I got you. They can. And you know what? And just like it's the game, Nick Castellanos did not cost the Phillies postseason games with his bad defense. I can point to a few where Trey Turner has.
No, and I'm not going to go against you on that one. But
does Trey Turner get any kind of? He didn't get any kind of vitriol at all, though, about it. It's like Trey Turner just gets like.
I think he got a good amount. That's the thing.
I don't.
The other thing too is opportunity. Like the opportunity for a right fielder to screw up a game is a lot less than the opportunity for a shortstop to screw up a game.
I had to go watch that play again because it aggravates me still that just to think if he fields that ball routinely and throws it to a 4-0 game, you've got your pitcher throwing a gem. You got a 4-0 lead on Shohei Ohtani.
You and Andrew both do this, where you like go back and watch the traumatic.
Well, no, because you know what? You know why I do it? Because I want to see it again to make sure I'm not saying something. Because I'm going, did my brain tell me something differently?
I try to block it out, man. I'm just I know it happened, but I don't need to see it.
All right, we're going to get your input all day long, and we're talking phones, texts, otherwise, and we want to hear from you. So text away, and we're going to take, if you can get by Shukri Wrights this morning with a great phone call, you can get on the air. We want to hear from you. 610-632-0975. Text with 610-632-0975. Want to hear from you. But I got to ask, and I asked this of Andrew earlier in the week, and I'm asking it of Connor coming up. Why is it constant drama with our sports teams? This has nothing to do with us either, or the media. It's Kincade Salciunas on The Fanatic.
Now on 97.5 The Fanatic Sports Update.
Nick Castellanos has been released. I'm Sean Rodman, and moments before his release, Nick Castellanos posted on his Instagram a letter to Phillies fans as well as a letter addressing the Miami incident. Castellanos admitted to bringing a beer into the dugout after he was benched last June in his hometown of Miami, which is against league rules. Dave Dombrowski spoke yesterday and addressed the Miami incident.
That was 7 months ago, so it was a long time ago. We spoke about it when we had been arrested at the time. Thompson and I did with Nick. That wasn't the final or determining factor, because if that was, we would have done that at that particular time. So just.
The Phillies' first Grapefruit League game is not until next Saturday, the 21st. The NBA All-Star Weekend is underway as well. VJ Edgecombe will participate in the Rising Stars round robin on Vince Carter's team tonight. Tyrese Maxey will participate in the three-point contest on Saturday and will start in the All-Star game on Sunday. Team USA men's hockey team won its first game of the preliminaries at the Olympics yesterday, 5-1 over Latvia. This update is brought to you by Uber Eats. You hungry? Good thing Uber Eats has a great deal waiting for you at La Scala's. From now until March 31st, get a buy one, get one free of Rigatoni vodka on the app. Order now, only on Uber Eats. Terms apply. See app for details. I'm Sean Rodman on the home of the Sixers, Flyers, and the best Birds coverage, 97.5 The Fanatic and the Fanatic app.
my mind.
This hour of Kincade Salciunas is presented by Bradford White Water Heaters. Bradford White, they're here for the pro. As the Locked On Phillies podcast host, I was coming out of my class yesterday, and I usually get to hear around an hour and 15 minutes or so as I'm driving home from Temple of Unfiltered. And I was thinking, because Connor's working a double yesterday due to Silvana being under the weather, and I'm thinking to you, Connor, because I know that we had done prep for today's show thinking no Sixers, no Flyers last night. We had all these topics thought up for today's show. So we pretty much had a show sheet done before I ever went into class yesterday afternoon. And I'm thinking, oh, crap, we got to redo that.
Yeah.
And then I said, oh, damn, Connor was going to go home and do the Locked On Phillies podcast. And then you told me the story this morning.
I was sitting here and the news broke while I was there where Sean Rodman's sitting right now, and I was just like, oh, man. Well, there's an hour's worth of work that is now completely irrelevant with the Phillies. Now, you guys want to hear me break down Aiden Miller's path to the majors?
Well, hopefully you can save that and use it on another day.
I can, but it was
oh, my gosh.
It was a long, busy day yesterday for anybody who talks or covers or watches the Philadelphia Phillies, and you know what? There will become a point where we get exhausted with this because clearly, if there's one thing I can guarantee you about this story, there's more to come.
There is.
Call Adam Schefter and have him say it for us because there's more.
It was someone within the Phillies organization, a friend of our show, listening this morning, said he thought it was a very fair representation and he was very proud that we made it clear. The villain of the story is Nick Castellanos. Said, but I think you painted a very fair picture of a guy that many people still loved. And there's a very, very dangerous line of you love somebody for who they are and a lot of their qualities, but then you watch their behavior and you shake your head and say, why are they acting like this?
Every single one of us has a friend, a close friend, who's an ass. That's just the reality of life, okay? And you may love the person, and that's totally fine. Like, we all have it. And then you see them interact with other people or do certain things, and you're like, bro, what are you doing? But it doesn't change that you like who the person is. We all have those moments, or we all have those character quirks, and quirks are that's probably the number one way to describe Nick Castellanos and who he is as a person. He just has these interesting quirks.
These kind of behaviors are more than quirks, though.
Yeah.
This is because some of it is antisocial behavior.
Yes.
Like, it's just not right.
But that's what leads into all of this when he gets into a situation he clearly didn't want to be in the first place.
And it didn't, but it's very complicated for some people because they liked him very much. I will tell you this, is just as a personal story. Now, look, again, I'm in that Phillies clubhouse 10, 12 times a year. So I am not Matt Gelb or an insider or anything. But I try to get down to batting practice at least 8, 10 times a year, try to get around there. So at least, you can see some faces, shake some hands, kiss some babies. And the first time I was back post-cancer and Nick Castellanos saying something to me, and I don't know if it was somebody tipped him off or otherwise, but he knew some of the socials. And Nick Castellanos talking to me and asking how I was feeling, telling me I was looking pretty good. And he says, not that you look that good in the first place, but it's that same. He goes, but you're looking pretty good. He goes, you're looking pretty good. That's good. How you feeling? And everything like that. Every interaction I ever had with him was positive, but there were days where I always thought, and I would see him like, oh, yeah, he's a nice dude. And then other days you'd see him, and it would be like, he'd be more distant.
Yes.
It's like you and we also know those people. There's some people you see that, like, some days they're real chatty Cathy and they want to talk to you and everything. Yeah. And then other days they're sort of distant.
Right.
But I always found him to be very kind, and the fact that he would, like, take the time to be like, how you feeling? Are you feeling good? How's your health? To me, it meant something, and I think that's a very kind person.
Yes, they didn't lead him out. Like, when the release came down or when the season ended last year, they didn't lead him out of the clubhouse in a straitjacket and a Hannibal Lecter mask, right? But it also doesn't mean...
No, it doesn't.
If you think that, you're crazy, But
Right.
if you think he was a good teammate overall in his time here in Philadelphia, you're also crazy. Good teammate doesn't mean bad person.
No.
But
And-
it can bleed into that when certain circumstances take place, like what happened in Miami, which we're going to talk about, and other things that were reported in the Gelb article.
There are our industry in radio, and it's an example I have for you today. I in a career in radio from that began as an intern in the late 80s, I can tell you that I have come across some of the most talented people that sit behind microphones, that have some of the most antisocial behaviors, that many of them very, very talented, and there are guys that, younger guys that are very, very talented that found themselves completely unemployable because they couldn't keep it, they couldn't hold a job because they couldn't conduct themselves like a good teammate.
Why
They
are you
couldn't-
looking at me?
No, you're fine. You've been here. Look, you've been here longer than I've been. And it's like, I got here and you were here. It's like they find themselves unemployable. And I look at some of these guys and I go, they're so talented. These are talented people, but they're completely unemployable because they act like asses. And then I see them on Twitter, and they're still hammering away with their Twitter fingers, and they're like, and they don't understand why they can't get jobs because they don't know how to act. They don't know how to act like a professional. They don't know how to act like a grown-up. And I'm like, I've heard these people on microphones, and I'm like, they're very talented people. And they can't hold jobs, and they're young guys with talented, they should have big careers in front of them, and they can't hold jobs. The same thing can be with Nick Castellanos. You can be a good person. You can be somebody who's kind to a cancer patient. You can be somebody who, the organization, by the way, the Phillies organization, funnels young players coming up from the minors. Oh, you don't have a place to stay? Go stay with Nick. Now, really, would they do that if he was Hannibal Lecter?
No, I don't think so.
So it's like it's that dichotomy of
Yeah, this is the ultimate nuanced conversation because I don't think there's a single party to the Nick Castellanos saga in Philadelphia that does not share some fault. I don't think there is. There's a lot of times where it's like, hey, clearly it's this one person causing a problem and there's no other way to see it. This is one where Nick Castellanos, as you pointed, is clearly the villain of the story.
Nick Castellanos is the black hat in this story.
But anybody else that's mentioned, reported on, gave thoughts on this, was involved in any way, has some semblance of blame. And that's something that makes this really important where you cover all bases so no one's getting unfairly portrayed.
610-632-0975. We will take your call. If you, Shukri's looking for good callers on this, you want to text in with us, Rodman will be checking the text line all morning at 610-632-0975. But I ask you, we did this just last week. You and Andrew and I talked about it. Why is it constant drama with our sports teams? This is not media created. So this is why, the media finds, look, the Matt Gelb article comes out yesterday, an hour and a half after it all happens. The news dump comes out after he's released. This isn't something where the media didn't do anything here. This was all on Nick. And look, Nick's the villain, but the Phillies had a lot of miscues too, but still, O'Connor, how does it keep happening? This has nothing to do with Philly fan base, nothing to do with the media, nothing to do. It's crazy town.
See, I disagree with you there.
Really?
And allow me to get this out because I'm going somewhere with this. Don't take my initial comment for what it is. It does have to do with the media. It also has to do with the fans. It has to do with the market in general. I've said this with the Eagles before. I'll say it with the Phillies, Flyers, Sixers. It's this town. And I am not saying it's a bad thing because there is so much good that comes with the way we consume our sports here in Philadelphia. Philly, do not change. I don't want this to be different. I don't want this fan base to become any less passionate. But with that passion comes obsession. And with that obsession comes a lot of things. No stone is ever left unturned here in Philadelphia when it comes to storylines with our sports teams. We're in smaller markets with less passionate fan bases. Things are much easier swept under the rug. On top of that, when you're obsessed, that's a lot of emotion involved in that. Emotion is not a rational thing. You're very rational. You don't love the feelings conversations.
I hate feelings.
When emotion gets involved, and this is not just media and not just the fans and not just the player, like it's the whole all-encompassing of the Philadelphia sports ecosystem. We care so much that there's so much noise all the time that you can't help from being overloaded sometimes. And it leads, see, this drama I think exists other places. Like I don't think it's just Philadelphia. Now, do we have an inordinate amount in some circumstance? Yeah, dude, for sure we do. But I think with how much we care about these sports teams, we get the upside of, wow, how awesome of a place is this to play? But we also get the, if you screw up even a little bit, it's going to be out there, and the fan base is going to let you hear it because they care, and it's going to lead to some type of result, whether you take that positively, Trey Turner standing ovation, whether you take that negatively, guys that cannot make it in this town because they can't handle the pressure. There's all kinds of stuff, but I think it's just how much we, the gravity, the pressure of Philadelphia sports is both a good thing and a bad thing. The double-edged sword is really intriguing.
I understand we have a good caller, that Shukri has lined up a good caller for us.
Yeah, let's
go.
go.
A lot of pressure.
Let's go to Grant in Morgantown here, who's waiting patiently. Grant, you're live here on 97.5 The Fanatic.
Hey, guys. How you doing?
Good, Grant. Let's get after it. What's up?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing with this is that Nick Castellanos just doesn't realize he's not as good as he is anymore. I mean, when he came here, when they signed him, I was more excited that they signed him than that they signed Schwarber. This is a guy coming off a year where he hits 34 homers and 100 RBIs, and I thought, hey, in this park he might hit maybe close to 40, and obviously that didn't end up happening. And I think a big issue with the Phillies and Nick is Nick sees himself as a better player than he is anymore, and there's that disconnect, and that's part of the issue he had with being substituted. I think it's also just the issue that he doesn't realize who he is. It's a lack of self-awareness on his part somewhat, I think.
I think that's a good one. I appreciate your call on that.
Yeah, thanks, Grant.
I think I was in that boat because I was home for that. I was back here for that. I wanted Castellanos over Schwarber.
Yeah, he was the more complete player. Like Schwarber's, we talk about Castellanos not being good defensively. Schwarber's unplayable defensively. And Castellanos had the better season leading into that signing. But that's the thing, right? The part of the Gelb article that's so intriguing to me is hey, I tell my agent to get me somewhere else, like a more favorable market to what I want. Oh, is Philadelphia the only team offering it? I'll go there. And with that, when you accept the $100 million contract and you come to Philadelphia, everyone here is going to say, dude, look how much they're paying you. You should be the model teammate. But for a guy like Nick Castellanos that reportedly didn't want to be here from the start, he's like, hey, you guys think I'm worth this much, and I'm choosing you over places I'd rather be because you value me at X dollar amount. You better treat me like that type of player when I get there. And that's where the major disconnect started, I think.
Hey, Nick Castellanos thinks his letter, which he posted on Instagram, stated his case. I think it actually made him look bad. But that also made him look honest to me. All coming up. We'll take your calls to at 610-632-0975 and your texts. We'll check our text line for the first time today. It's Kincade Salciunas here on 97.5 The Fanatic. Going to tell you all about it. If you're looking to move or you've got a garage that is an absolute mess, you need a Bagster, the dumpster in a bag. Let's say you were told yesterday that you're being released. You got to get out of that house. So convenient. It's so affordable. It's such a great way to do your cleanup. You get a Bagster. It's a 3 cubic yard dumpster in a bag. I'm looking at Rodman. He's figuring out what 3 cubic yards is. It's big. That means you can put all your junk in it, Rodman. That means you just set one of these things up, and he's thinking, Kincade can't set up a Bagster, for God's sakes. He couldn't even, screw in a light bulb. No, you can. I have set up a Bagster. They're simple. They're easy to put together. You put together a Bagster. You carry it out under your arm. It's lightweight. Grandma could carry it home. It's simple, lightweight. You set it up. Then when you're ready to use it, get your Bagster set up, you fill it up, you schedule your collection, and it'll be gone. There's no time limits. It's completely on demand. It's so easy to find the store nearest you to get more details. Go to thebagster.com to get those details. Look, if you're looking to clean out that garage, the attic, or do a remodeling project, maybe this is the year you finally make that house look like $1 million. It's just $29.99. The Bagster is the greatest home improvement project ever. It'll get you started. For 2026, clean it up with the Bagster. It's a dumpster in a bag.
From the city.
John Marks, that's coming up at 10 o'clock. Let's get back to more of Kincade Salciunas right here on 97.5 The Fanatic.
What did you think of Nick Castellanos' letter that he posted up on Instagram? The scribbled on paper letter that was like 5 pages where he did it. First of all, it revealed to me a few things. It seemed very authentic because the one thing that I would say is that a lot of what was revealed in that letter, I don't believe made him look good. So to me, that automatically makes the letter look really authentic because I don't think the letter makes him look in any way like a sympathetic figure to me.
No, talking about the beer in the dugout down in Miami. And
right, I mean, like, he doesn't come off, it doesn't seem like it seemed like someone writing that letter that seemed sort of self-aware that, look, I'm gonna bare my soul. I was a bit of an a-hole.
I had a bit of a different read on it.
What did you think?
I think it's authentic. I do. But the part where he talks about, like, don't let the media paint your opinion for you in that letter, it seemed to be very clearly a counter, which he has every right to do, a counter to the article that was coming out.
Well, he knew the team was helping to get a smear piece written about him. That with information, like, all this information was out there.
Yeah.
Nick Castellanos is released. Nick Castellanos has to hurriedly put this letter together because he's getting told by other people, by the way, I'm getting calls. You're about to get slammed. They are writing a hit piece on you, and I'm getting asked to comment on it. So prepare yourself. You may want to get your side of the story out there. And I thought with him getting his chance to put his side of the story out there, I don't think that he tried to make himself out to seem like he was a real sympathetic figure.
No. But I look at this as the equivalent of, like, lawyering up. Now, going and getting a lawyer doesn't mean you're guilty, right?
Right.
But it does mean that you believe that the other side's case is strong enough that you're going to end up in court.
Oh, yeah.
So it looked more of like a prepared, hey, I know this is coming out. I'm going to put out, don't believe everything you read, basically. Here's my account of it. I messed up in certain ways.
And he did, right.
But it might not be as bad as other people are going to tell you it is, and that's my thoughts as Nick Castellanos, which is fair, and I'm not saying he's wrong in any way. And I think there are certainly some people who could believe, hey, you gave us something in that letter to make us say, okay, you're self-aware, but there are other things that were not mentioned in that letter that were mentioned in the Gelb article that I believe to be true.
And again, and Kevin Cooney pointing out to me, our buddy Kevin Cooney pointing out that he was called for comment. Yes, he was called for comment on a hit piece that the organization was putting out on him the day he was being released. Information that the organization is going, here's the trough of dirty laundry that we're feeding because we want everybody to believe our way. This is stuff that was sat on.
Yeah, and I don't.
This is stuff that they sat on.
I don't blame him for saying no, thank you to
and
the
I don't
comments
blame it either.
And putting out his own thing. Like, I don't think he's wrong to do that.
No, but I don't think, and to his, I don't think Nick came off sympathetic at all.
No,
I think, I don't think he painted himself as some, like, real guy that you should feel a lot of sympathy for. He didn't make himself look like the Phillies are bad people and look what they did to me.
Yeah, he's not some sociopath who will put out that letter lying to you about what happened.
Right, exactly.
Right? He has his chance to tell his side of the story. That's how he chose to do it. And I think it gave really good color to where he's at with this equation.
What do we have on the text line? Sean Rodman, good morning. And what do we have on the text line this morning? Is it buzzing?
Yes,
on
it
Nick
is buzzing.
Castellanos. Good.
It is buzzing. Chris in Lancaster checks in first saying, Nick was a loser teammate with a loser attitude. The kind of player who just wants to make his money and isn't worried about being on a winning team. Go watch his reaction when Lorenzen got his no-hitter. Not a care in the world.
Who was that again?
Chris in Lancaster.
Okay, did Chris in Lancaster watch the last out of the last game of the Phillies season, when the other Phillies players didn't give a damn about their teammate who had arguably Orion Kerkering's miscue might have been the worst ending to a game, single brain fart that I've ever seen in a game.
Yeah, it was pretty darn bad.
To lose an entire team season And you have the one camera angle where you can see Nick Castellanos is the only teammate who makes a beeline for Orion Kirkering to make sure Orion Kirkering is okay, while other teammates walk right the hell past him or right to the clubhouse. So, yes, you can make points where he was a bad teammate, absolutely, where he had bad behaviors. But that, to me, is ridiculous because while other guys didn't give a flip about their teammate and what had just happened and only cared about themselves, Nick Castellanos cared about a human being that he was a teammate with that was in pain, and he was the only one that went directly to him quickly.
Castellanos has redeeming qualities.
Correct. Exactly.
He does.
He's a contradiction.
Yeah, well, yes,
he is. He's a walking contradiction.
He's a weird dude. Let's just say it how we say it. Nick Castellanos is a hard dude to track down with what he'll tell you what he's thinking, but the way he goes about it, you're still kind of like, what in the world are you talking about,
exactly.
dude? So here's the thing. He has the redeeming qualities. The problem with the Phillies part of it, not just the Nick Castellanos character, is he a good dude or bad dude?
Right.
There's more to getting a $100 million contract and being part of a baseball team for 4 years than just having redeeming qualities as a person.
Absolutely.
Right? That's not where the bar is. So it's a good bar for, hey, would I have a beer with this guy? Maybe not in the dugout during a Major League Baseball game. But it's not a full indictment of him as a person. It's not good enough for the Phillies and what they needed from him.
I want to make it clear again. Matt Gelb's piece is tremendously well done, tremendously well written, and well sourced. It would be perfect. Like that's an A+ paper if it was being submitted at Klein School of Media at Temple. But I hate it when organizations do this. And I will also tell you, speaking with a baseball executive last night, it's not a good look for the Phillies. It's not a good look for the Phillies. And I'll share the exact quote from a text. Said, what did you think of the piece by Matt Gelb? It's like, well done piece from a well-respected writer. But free agents and other players around the league, they're always watching. And they're always thinking in the back of their head, wow, what are they going to do to me the minute I screw up or the minute I'm out the door?
Yeah, if you think that the Phils smell like roses now that the stink of Nick Castellanos has been released, you are sadly mistaken.
Because it doesn't really hit well. I mean, players sometimes look at that and don't like it. All right, coming up. A beer in a dugout. It's a funny thing to talk about. And we're going to talk about it. And it seems funny. It seems laughable. But what are the ramifications of that? And was that situation handled poorly? It was handled poorly by Nick doing it. But was it handled poorly by the Phillies in how it was handled from there? And were there other situations around it? So much intrigue to get to. Plus your calls and your texts. It's Kincade Salciunas, second hour coming your way next on 97.5 The Fanatic.
Now on 97.5 The Fanatic Sports Update.
Nick Castellanos has been released. I'm Sean Rodman, and moments before his release, Nick Castellanos posted on his Instagram a letter to Phillies fans as well as a letter addressing the Miami incident. Castellanos admitted to bringing a beer into the dugout after he was benched last June in his hometown of Miami, which is against league rules. Dave Dombrowski spoke yesterday on why it took so long for a solution with Castellanos.
We've spent a long time trying to make a trade. When I say they're trying to move his contract for minimum return from a dollar perspective and player perspective, but it just hasn't worked out, and at some point you just have to say, well, this isn't going to work.
The Phillies' first Grapefruit League game is not until next Saturday, the 21st, and the NBA All-Star Weekend is underway. VJ Edgecombe will participate in the Rising Stars round robin on Vince Carter's team tonight, and then Tyrese Maxey will participate in the three-point contest on Saturday and will start in the All-Star game on Sunday. Team USA men's hockey won its first game at the Olympics yesterday in a 5-1 win over Latvia. This update is brought to you by Maple Grove Farms Pure Maple Syrup. Maple Grove Farms started a sweet tradition on a Vermont family farm, and they are still pouring the magic onto your plate. Make mornings legendary. Grab your Maple Grove Farms Pure Maple Syrup bottle at Walmart today. I'm Sean Rodman on the home of the Sixers, Flyers, and the best Birds coverage, 97.5 The Fanatic and the Fanatic app.
Appreciate you hanging out with the show. Andrew will be back on Monday. We will be here on the holiday, and we hope that you are here with us. Connor is in for Andrew. Sean Rodman has slid over to Connor's chair, and we appreciate you. You can get in at 610-632-0975 and get in on the conversation regarding Nick Castellanos. Nick Castellanos, who had no friends, right?
Apparently.
No friends in the team, right? There is a really, the interesting stories about how they have the cookouts, the team dinners.
Yeah.
With Matt Rourke, where he cooks for the team and everything like that. 2 days before the Dodgers series, they had a team gathering. Bunch of guys getting together on an off day to hang out. There's Nick Castellanos. There's Trey Turner. There's Kyle Schwarber. There's all of them hanging out at home, having a cookout and everything like that. So no friends, right? A clubhouse where he has a clubhouse where he's no friends, right? 2 days before the NLDS, he's hanging out with all these people when they all have smiles on their face. So you're telling me they're hanging out on their own time, and Nick is there among them, right there, standing right next to them, smiles and laughing and joking, shoulder to shoulder, smiles. You're telling me that, these guys in the clubhouse, they hate him. They want him gone. They don't respect him? I'm telling you, the story you got yesterday was very one-sided.
That's
is not
very true.
It's not fair.
Yeah.
And you can find, I have found now 7 different pictures of these gatherings from this year, let alone other years, where Nick Castellanos is in the mix of very happy teammates, but this one, 2 nights before the NLDS, there are a series of pictures where Nick Castellanos is with his teammates. You don't hang out with people you can't stand outside of work.
We invite Salciunas to all of our work stuff.
That is true. Now, look, Connor's just putting it together. No, but I mean, seriously.
I know what you mean, right?
You do not break bread outside of work at gatherings you're not forced to be at. You do not. And you do not they're hanging out and having a great time together.
Yeah.
And it's not staged photos. It's not, hey, guys, pose for a picture.
Yeah.
These are candid pictures of guys hanging out together.
That's where anyone's like, oh, Nick Castellanos, everybody hates him.
That story, I'm telling you, that part of the story is not holding up.
And
photographic evidence speaks to another story.
Here's what you got to separate, too.
Okay.
Right? Because we know, we look at Major League Baseball different than players do. To us, it's this passionate thing that we really care about. It's this escape. To them, it's work. So when you hear this stuff about, oh, he wasn't a good teammate, he was doing XYZ in the locker room, he had these incidents. For some guys, that's just baseball, right? And you could still like the guy, and you could still enjoy spending time with him. And like we brought up before, there's still redeemable qualities
Correct.
there. This story coming out doesn't mean everybody hated Nick Castellanos every day. Now, there was another part of the Matt Gelb article where Nick Castellanos in a celebration after a playoff series win went to the dugout by himself while the rest of the team was celebrating in the locker room. And
it was when they clinched the division in L.A.
Clinched the division, that's what it was. And it's just that's kind of part of who Nick is, where he seems to be more the keep to himself guy if he had his choices. But so he wasn't the number one clubhouse rah-rah guy, but he also wasn't hated.
And I got video on my phone of the 2024 division winning championship celebration. I'm in the clubhouse for it with Nick Castellanos, shoulder to shoulder with Schwarber and Harper, spraying beers on each other and dancing around and everything like that too. The picture that's being painted, though, was very much not coincidental. 80 minutes released after he's released.
Yeah.
The story's released. That piece by Matt Gelb is so well written and so well sourced with 12 or 13 sources. That isn't done in 80 minutes.
No.
They've been planning that piece.
Right.
That piece was planned.
Yeah. And
when is he released? Okay. All right. Now, hit send. And to me, that's part of this, too. The Phillies don't look good with that. That doesn't look good.
Nobody comes out of this looking
No,
good.
and
Not a
the
single person.
But the most person who doesn't look good is Nick Castellanos.
Absolutely.
So,
and I'd say there's a wide gap between that.
I would. No, I think it's wide.
But
I think it's Grand Canyon wide.
There's plenty more though, and maybe second place on this list is the manager. And that's going to come up as we talk about the Miami incident.
Okay, so here's paint a picture of you're Nick Castellanos. I want to ask you, Nick Castellanos is in Miami. The team always knows the visiting players, they know their hometowns.
Yeah.
They know how many tickets they've purchased because the team purchases the tickets and seats their family members. So they know how many, the player that's in their hometown, how many people they have in attendance. They may even be getting guest passes for them to come visit and everything like that.
Forget the team. The fans knew that Nick Castellanos, when he goes to Miami, that's a special place to him. So they definitely knew.
So he goes to Miami, and that's the game? He's defensively replaced? So I ask you, the petty police are asking. He's got all his family in attendance, all his guests in attendance. You don't see a little strange coincidence there?
Everything I know about Rob Thompson, from what players have talked about. Whit Merrifield was just on Middays with Marks earlier this week and gave Topper glowing credit for the way he communicates and treats his players and everything. Like, the guys love this dude. And everything that I know about him from his time as manager of the Phillies is he does not seem like a vindictive, petty type of person where it's like, I don't like Nick, so you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to wait till Miami when his whole family's in the stands, and that's when you're getting ripped out of the game.
So he plays him every inning of every game.
But that's the thing. Exactly. The fact that this is where it's not like all of a sudden he became a bad defender in that series in Miami where you could defensively replace the guy. It's not like a 2-run game against the Marlins in June was the difference between the Phillies winning or losing the NL East. There are too many coincidences for when this happened to look at it and say, no way this wasn't a concerted effort by somebody. Now, I'm not willing to say, hey, 100% that's what it was.
Now, did the call come from upstairs?
I don't know.
Because, as I said earlier, I understand the frustration level may have just bubbled over. That he'd worn out his welcome. They're so pissed at him. Castellanos has just gotten on their last nerve. And they decided to make a statement where it would zing them the most.
Yeah. I'm not Sherlock Holmes. So.
I believe there was something to that. I think if you believe they played him every inning of every game, all the time, for years, and then in Miami, with all of his family in attendance in his hometown and everything like that, that they decide that game, give me a break.
Too much coincidence.
Too much coincidence.
Yeah, to say that this came out of nowhere.
Right.
But not enough evidence to say, hey, it came from here. So
right. We don't know. We don't know, Rob. It could have come from.
But that didn't happen by accident.
Now, do you go to the clubhouse and get a beer?
Yeah, probably.
No.
But you don't bring it to the it into the dugout.
Exactly. Now, here's what I'm going to say. I heard some things yesterday on radio and on social media. I don't think a lot of people understand this. Players, many times, when they are out of a game, will go back to the clubhouse and we'll have a beer.
Yeah, it's totally normal thing.
It's not an abnormal thing. So that's not like, people are like, what a disrespect thing. It's there are players when a game is going on that will have a beer. They are out of the game. They know they're not going back in the game that have done that. I think that sucks as a teammate, myself. Pitchers go back after they're out of games a lot of times, and they'll go and get iced up, or they'll go and
get their post-game work in.
Position players that are taken out of games usually will stick around.
Yeah.
They'll stick around. I think it sucks to go back and get a beer and to do that. To bring a beer out to the dugout is completely out of bounds. There's no argument to be made that it was completely disrespectful to the game. By the way, it's against league rules too.
Yeah.
The Phillies could have gotten a big fine for it.
And they chose not to push that penalty as far as they could have having the open container in the dugout.
And they could have pushed that and been willing to do it.
So they could have been
weren't.
harder on Nick. They chose not to do that, which is credit to them for, I think, having a little leniency there, even though in that moment it doesn't sound like Nick Castellanos deserved it.
Now, the question is the give and take, too. Now, there's a lot of drama going on now about what the give and take was. Now, it's funny is now stuff is coming that people are like, well, I'm hearing it's this. All summer long, and again, being down at the ballpark, being around it, and again, I'm not Matt Gelb. I'm not down there every day. But I am down there more. How about this? I'm down there as much as any of my sports radio peers are, as far as being there around the clubhouse, around that. I'm down there as much. I heard stories about what might have been exchanged. And then yesterday, I'm starting to hear these outlandish stories about what might have been said. And I'm like, okay, I'm not believing those because I think I would have heard the outlandish thing earlier.
Yeah.
Because I heard stuff that was said. And by the way, I heard it from people that travel with the team. What they had heard went on. I didn't hear any of these like outlandish, wild things that Casty went way over the line with Rob Thompson.
Yeah.
But that I heard completely disrespectful of his leadership. And to me, that is, again, that's Castellanos 100% out of bounds. You can't do that. Can't do that. That is all on Castellanos. You can disagree with Rob Thompson. You know what you do? I have seen players go into managers or heard of players going into managers' offices and closing the door and screaming matches that everybody could hear.
Yeah.
That's what you do.
Right, but once the door is closed, even if you can hear it through the door, there's that level of respect there for how you're handling it. Now, I've heard that there was something that completely crossed the line. And I'm not saying like, oh, you're wrong, I'm right. Like we weren't in the dugout in Miami.
I think if something completely crossed the line, it doesn't come out February the 12th.
Yeah.
Somebody would have, that absolutely would have been, back in the summer.
Yes, and then I read the Matt Gelb article, and I hear of all of this stuff going on with Nick Castellanos that was sat on that we did not know about, and I wonder how much they were able to keep this in-house.
And that's a good point. That's the good counterpoint to that.
So, but bottom line is this. What he said was enough to warrant a suspension in his hometown while he was on a very long games played streak that everyone was upset about outside of the org. Like, fans were upset that they did this to Nick Castellanos and ruined his streak in the moment. So it was something, whatever level it went to, was enough that it was said in front of players, and it was egregious enough that the discipline was necessary.
And I will say again, I apologized earlier today to Dave Dombrowski for saying, even though I still think he blew the market value of Nick Castellanos by trashing him after 2023 and 2024 publicly in his postseason press conferences, I now understand more where he must have been like, I'm at wit's end with this guy. He's an unprofessional guy to have to deal with. I now understand much more of the Rob Thompson situation. And I was highly critical of Rob Thompson ending Nick Castellanos' streak. And I was wrong.
But
I was wrong to be critical of it because I did not know about the beer. The minute the beer comes into play, Rob Thompson had every right. I didn't know about that. Nobody had reported that. I had not heard that. And now knowing that, I was completely in the wrong because I said, come on, Rob. Sticks and stones break my bones. You're breaking the guy's consecutive games played streak because of that. The minute that I hear that story, and by the way, I completely believe it because Nick Castellanos backed up the story. He deserved to be benched. He deserved to have his streak broken. And Rob Thompson deserves an apology from me because I absolutely criticized Rob Thompson saying that he should not have broken his streak. I was wrong on that.
Now, I'm lower on the Rob Thompson respect meter today. Not because of that incident.
Okay, tell me why.
This is what I told you when we were in the last break. I was like, we're about to get to what I think is the most hilarious part of this. The beer in the dugout. It's not good for the team.
It's hilarious.
But
it is
it's
hilarious.
objectively funny to think
It is
about
objectively funny.
Castellanos' shirt unbuttoned all the way down, just like sitting there crushing a lager, yelling at Rob. Like, come on. But
And the Presidente is you're happy with that choice? Is that
yeah, it's a solid pick by
it's a
Nick.
solid pick. I know that Ray Dunn was giving it his solid pick.
I respect the beer choice, Nick. But here's what's so funny to me. It says enough that he has to be restrained by Kyle Schwarber and JT Realmuto, pulled away from Rob Thompson. Howie Kendrick has to rip the beer out of his hand before he's able to take a drink in the dugout. And all of this goes down to the level where there was a major, major issue in the dugout during an active Major League Baseball game. And the suspension warranted. But you know what happened the day after the suspension?
He went back in.
And for 29 more games straight after that, you're just like, oh, you're right back out there. Like, I mean.
All right, well, here's what I would ask, because I thought about this last night. What would you have done if you were Rob Thompson? Who would you have put in?
I mean, I would have done what they did the day he was suspended, where you play Kepler and right, and then you play, I guess, Rojas in center and Martian left. It's not great for the team.
I think his mindset and the organization's mindset was, we don't have anybody, but we're on the phones and we're working and we're going to get somebody.
Yeah.
And from this point on, we're done with this guy.
Yeah.
We're done with this guy. But that day, we can't let the division slip away.
Right.
We can't let, you know what I mean?
But that would have been the moment where it was, you're not playing every day anymore. At least for right now, and maybe you can earn your way back into that, but I wouldn't have played him for the next 30 games straight after that incident. That, to me, is, I'll say it's soft on Rob Thompson. I've been a big Rob Thompson defender, but from my perspective on this, if a guy's going to so publicly question you in that type of manner in front of your team during a game, and the penalty is one suspension, and then you're back the next day and we play. And if it was back the next day, sits the next day, back the next game, sits the next game, and there's you have to earn your way back type of thing, that's totally fine with me. But hey, we're just going to move on like this didn't happen for the next 30 games. There's part of that Matt Gelb article where people thought, it's funny, Nick Castellanos thought he was disrespected, and other people in that locker room reportedly believed he got more leash than he deserved. That is a number one incident to point to of like getting more leash than you deserve.
I find it's one of the things where I'm glad that's where they don't do the show before the show. That's eye-opening to me. That's eye-opening to me. I hadn't thought of it that way. And it really is something to think about.
Yeah, like if I was playing on the team and I saw a guy get in trouble that much, right? And then, okay, suspended one game, you have to. But you basically gave down the necessary penalty, and then you're just like, bygones be bygones, especially when there are clear reports that other stuff had existed. Dave Dombrowski said it yesterday. That was not the determining factor. And to me, that says, well, yeah, we're also going to be able to hide behind we think there's a better fit for our team out here. We don't want to put it all on the incident. It also says to me, clearly they knew about this before the Miami incident, that this was an issue. It comes to a head. He gets the necessary one-game suspension. You pull punches by not penalizing him for the beer in the dugout as much as Major League standards would say you should. And then he's back for 30 games starting in a row. If I'm a teammate, I'm like, what does this guy have on you that you're continuing to play him regularly after that?
610-632-0975. Sean Rodman, let's check the text line. What do we got?
All right. We have people on both sides for Castellanos versus the Phillies. And one person checking in saying, it's a mistake getting rid of Nick. Arguably your most consistent player the last 3 years, and in the playoffs especially. You don't win in playoffs because of your 6-7 hole hitter. And I'll take his number all day at the 7 hole. Probably best in the league if you win your top 4 batters. And that's where we've sucked the last 3 years.
Okay, I understand the point of view. And yesterday, if I got that text, I'd feel differently than I feel today. Can't have him back. He couldn't come back.
No shot.
He couldn't come back to this team.
We were talking about Kevin Patullo not being able to come back with the Eagles because he didn't do a good job as OC. This is not,
Castellanos a lot better than Kevin Patullo.
No, I know he's better, but this is a point where the relationship was so strained that there was no way.
And again, I appreciate all the people flooding me now with the pictures of Nick Castellanos with his teammates smiling, shoulders around each other and everything before the NLDS of this year at a party. the teammate that it was being portrayed as like nobody respects, nobody likes. They had to get him out of there over steaks and hanging out and everything like that. I think that story was very one-sided.
Yeah,
very one-sided.
You know what Nick Castellanos is? He's the typical
But
show.
you said it though. We all have people in our lives that we know like this.
Right. He's the typical like show, TV or movie trope of the grizzled veteran with a heart of gold.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean that person's always fun to be around, but it doesn't mean they're a bad person.
What do you got, Sean? What else?
All right. Next up, we have another person checking in saying it's called professionalism. Regardless of the line of work, when you're on duty, you display a standard of professionalism that is demanded from your organization. Some demand more than others. He's sunk below the Phillies threshold. He's gone. Let's move on.
I can't disagree with that at all. Cannot disagree with that statement at all. There are standards, and you're expected to meet the standards.
I'll disagree with one point of it.
What about?
We're not moving on.
Well,
The
no.
Phillies will move
The
on.
Phillies have moved on. That's what I think he's saying.
Yeah.
I don't think he's talking about us, but the
this
Phillies have to move on.
And there's more to come out. If you think the most dramatic day of this was yesterday, there are going to be other days that are close because there's more news to come.
And what sucks for the other players, too, is that they're now going to have to answer to.
Absolutely. The party line, I guarantee you, is going to be we're not talking
about
but they're
players
going to be asked.
We're not talking about players who aren't here.
And then you're going to get, because these were anonymous quotes from players in the Matt Gelb article.
I can tell you the number that one of the players wears and what position he plays.
Yeah, I think they're pretty good educated guesses.
He might be wearing a Fanatic socks.
But there are going to be other things said as this continues to break down.
It's unbelievable. Beers in the dugout and more, but unbelievable. What about bring your kid to work day? Which, by the way, I'm never in support of. As far as that's concerned, I think it went a little too far. But what about Nick and Liam? There's a big story here. We'll talk about that next. Kincade Salciunas, Connor in for Andrew here on 97.5 The Fanatic. It's all about live betting on the BetParx app. And look, right now, you got the hockey team locally, the basketball team locally taking some time off. But we have an all-star game this weekend in pro basketball. We got the Olympics going on and more. The BetParx online casino and sportsbook app, though, it never takes a rest. It's got all your favorite classic casino games, too, right there on your phone. You can play blackjack and craps and roulette and hundreds of online slot games. So if you're into Cleopatra, Triple Cash Eruption, they're all there. Plus, betting on all your favorite sports, and that's always a great, great time. You can bet live performances during the game, bet over-unders as the game goes on. And if you join me on the BetParx app, new users get up to $1,000 in casino bonus back if you're down in the first 24 hours. Check out BetParx.com and get the details. There's always another way to win. Check out the BetParx online casino and sportsbook app. You got to be 21, Pennsylvania, Jersey, or Michigan. Should you have a gambling problem, I implore you, please call 1-800-GAMBLER.
Now on 97.5 The Fanatic Sports Update.
Nick Castellanos' time in Philadelphia is over. I'm Sean Rodman, and moments before his release, Nick Castellanos posted on his Instagram a letter to Phillies fans, as well as a letter addressing the Miami incident last June. Castellanos admitted to bringing a beer into the dugout after he was benched last June in his hometown of Miami, which is against league rules. Dave Dombrowski spoke yesterday and addressed the Miami incident.
That was 7 months ago, so it's a long time ago. We spoke about it at the time. We had arrested at the time. Rob Thompson and I did with Nick. That wasn't the final or determining factor, because if that was, we would have done that at that particular time. So just.
The Phillies' first Grapefruit League game is not until next Saturday, the 21st. The NBA All-Star Weekend is underway. VJ Edgecombe will participate in the Rising Stars round robin on Vince Carter's team tonight. Tyrese Maxey will participate in the three-point contest on Saturday and will start in the All-Star game on Sunday. Team USA's men's hockey won its first game at the Olympics yesterday, a 5-1 win over Latvia. This update is brought to you by Uber Eats. You hungry? Good thing Uber Eats has a great deal waiting for you at La Scala's. From now until March 31st, get a buy one, get one free deal on Rigatoni Vodka on the app. Order now only on Uber Eats. Terms apply. See app for details. I'm Sean Rodman on the home of the Sixers, Flyers, and the best Birds coverage, 97.5 The Fanatic and the Fanatic app.
Parks online casino and sportsbook app. Live bet sports on the Bet Parks app. Play all your favorite casino games. There's always another way to win on the Bet Parks online casino and sportsbook. Got to be 21 in Pennsylvania, Jersey, or Maryland. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Appreciate you hanging out with Kincade Salciunas this morning. Andrew will be back on Monday. Connor in for Andrew today. Rodman in for Connor. Rodman will have the headlines coming up before the top of the hour. Some of the things I guess we don't get to today. And honestly, we rarely do a show that ever sort of sits on one topic this long. But as Connor was pointing out before the show today, there are so many different angles and so many different off-ramps to this story. And honestly, CT18, we have not gotten to at least 4 or 5 of them.
Yeah.
And that's the good part of this story.
Yeah, I mean, filled in on Unfiltered yesterday from when the news broke to the end of the show. We didn't talk about anything else.
They did a great job with it yesterday.
They did.
And Ricky's insights are interesting as an ex-Major League player.
Absolutely.
I love hearing the Clubhouse stories.
Yeah, and I brought this up to Austin Jones, who's back doing a great job with the YouTube today, as he always does. And I was just chatting with him in between the break. And I'm not normally, you know me, right? Like, I'm not a drama guy.
No, you're not.
That's just, I don't like it. I'm not a big conflict person. For me, I love to do the sports portion of the conversations. And a lot of the drama, I feel like, I don't want to say a lot. Some of the drama that pops up on sports talk shows, and you look at the contrived shows nationally and stuff like that,
locally
is very avoidable.
Yes.
This is not one of those like, hey, we need a topic, so what in the world is going on with player XYZ, right? Like, this is something that the drama is intriguing. It's warranted. There are a lot of different branches off the tree of the Nick Castellanos release, and it's also something relatively unexpected for a move that we knew that was coming. I thought that this would be hey, we mention it, and we move on. And with everything that came out, in addition to just the roster move, this is now there's no other teams playing. This is the biggest story in Philadelphia sports right now, and one of the biggest stories nationally. It's something that needs to be broken down heavily, and that's what we're here to do for you.
And there is enough, again, photographic evidence and evidence to the contrary that Nick Castellanos, and I think the anonymous. Now, look, Matt Gelb's doing a story, and again, I can't reiterate enough. If I read somebody's work and I trust it on baseball locally, Matt Gelb's right up there. Matt Gelb, Todd Zalecki, these are guys that I look at and I say, all right, if I read something that they've done, I know it's not being half-assed.
Yeah.
These are well-sourced. These are well done. I do find it strange that Nick Castellanos is released and a well-sourced article with at least like 13 credible sources from the organization and everything are quoted. That didn't happen in an hour.
Now, talk me through this, right? Because
right.
I know your brain's somewhere right now.
Sure.
We're not saying anything definitively because we're not. This broke at 2:30 yesterday.
It broke yesterday afternoon, and then within a couple hours, this incredibly well-sourced piece comes out.
But my point is, we're not even 24 hours into what in the world this is going to turn into. It's
right.
already become a circus.
Yes.
Where does that come? Why does an article like that get sat on and then posted at that timing?
I will tell you, I've seen enough of these in my career, having done this job this long, and I have seen these happen consistently. Is one of the things an organization does is they make sure that the best, most credible people are the ones to have it. Because a guy like Matt Gelb, if any of you in the audience are Nick Castellanos supporters, and there are a lot of reasons to support Nick for a lot of personal things, but if you're a Nick Castellanos supporter and you're trying to take shots at Matt Gelb, I will just tell you, you are 100% in the wrong. He is an incredible writer and incredibly proficient at what he does and professional. So the organizations will always try to make sure that they're aligned with the best.
Right, and it's not that Matt Gelb is being a puppet for the Phillies or anything like that.
Not at all. Hey, I can tell you this. If I get access to some of this information and I'm in Matt Gelb's shoes, I'm trying to beat every single person in my industry to have that story and to have it that well-sourced and to have that many people coming to the table to talk to me.
Yeah, but you would believe it's silly if someone was to say, "Oh, the Phillies had nothing to do organizationally with the timing of this
Ridiculous.
article." You think that's
no? I'm going to tell you that's 100% false.
okay, and I agree with you.
They knew they were releasing Nick Castellanos,
Yeah,
and they made sure that their side of the story was going to be out there. And if you notice, nobody else has it.
right. Now that doesn't.
It isn't three writers have it.
Yeah,
They understand. You pick a credible source. You pick somebody that is beyond reproach, and I believe Matt Gelb is beyond reproach.
now that doesn't mean that
He's not a puppet.
No, not
he's
even
not
him.
writing it like, you know what I mean. But this is all orchestrated.
that doesn't mean that the organization is wrong.
No,
that doesn't mean that this
no.
situation doesn't exist. It also doesn't mean that Nick Castellanos, when he puts out what he put in writing about like the don't trust the way the media paints stuff, make your own
Well-
determinations. That doesn't mean that he's like lying to you and trying to cover his ass fully. Like
No.
there's a lot of different levels to this where you can't just say the Phillies are trying to make him look like crap. They're lying to you, and Nick Castellanos is trying to cover his ass, so he's lying to you. Like I think both sides can have truth.
Well, I'm going to tell you that from what I've observed, the only depiction, and again, it's not Matt Gelb's depiction. It's the quotes that Matt Gelb has from people within the Phillies. That he had become this pariah. He had become this guy that people didn't want to have anything to do with in the clubhouse. I will tell you, I believe there will be some other writers that will come out and say they will probably find some people that will speak otherwise to that. And there is enough photographic evidence to tell you that in off hours, people in that clubhouse, team leaders, were hanging out with Nick Castellanos right before the Dodgers series, so it wasn't that bad. Having him in their house, sharing food, beers, shoulders around each other. It wasn't as bad as the players quoted or executives quoted are trying to depict it. Those people have an agenda. And I would just say, look at the pictures of the player gatherings. That Nick Castellanos, by the way, hosted some of these. Look at the players who came to Nick Castellanos' house when he hosted some of these. Note the players in the picture. Look at the pictures of Nick Castellanos at the player function. I believe it's Trey Turner's house. Right before the Dodger series. Note the players in the picture. And note the players that prominent player you might not see in the picture. And there you may have a person who is giving the quotes. I don't think it takes a lot of math to figure out who would be the person bad-mouthing the player. That's just me.
Yeah, I understand why you feel that way.
Yeah, and I can already tell you there's a conflict between a team leader. I can already tell you there is Bryce Harper and
Right.
Nick
Let's just say
Castellanos
who it
do
is.
not dig each other.
Yeah, exactly. And that's something that has been.
And I'm going to tell you, if Bryce Harper's not one of the people quoted in this story, please.
Yeah, I'd be shocked. Now, the other thing
Not
is.
on the record, though, of course.
No, but nobody was, and
Nobody
there were other
was.
players included in this. So I don't think it was just a Bryce Harper, Nick Castellanos, they hate each other, and this is the situation.
Correct.
Right? But I don't think that those guys were on great terms during their time with the Philadelphia Phillies.
And if you asked me about somebody that I disliked in the office, and they asked you about somebody in the office that gets fired, that you had a okay working relationship
yeah,
with.
everybody has their right to their own opinion.
Our anonymous quotes would be different.
Absolutely. Everybody has their right
Correct.
to their opinion on a person. And here's the other thing to think about. So you might say, well, why weren't those people quoted in the article?
No.
If you're going to put out a "this was the issue" article, you're not going to get a lot of traction from.
No.
Oh, great guy, wonderful dude. Happy to see him move on. Wish him all the best. Like that's not news. Part of the reason that this is coming out is because it is intriguing and it tells a story. It doesn't mean that other side doesn't exist. But in news, if it bleeds, it leads. And this story's bleeding.
Sean, on the text line, what do we got? Sorry to get to you so late here.
No worries. First person checking in saying, how can a single person say that they will miss Castellanos? Someone called him their most consistent player. The only thing he did with consistency were ground into double plays on first pitches and strike out on balls low and away.
Oh, he definitely was a player who could be missed.
Consistency is not how I would describe Nick Castellanos.
No, how about this? Consistently inconsistent.
Yes.
And a guy that when he was hot, oh my gosh, you'd say, where's that?
He's one of the best hitters on the planet when he's at his best.
And you'd say, where's that?
Yeah, but he's an inconsistent guy. And as far as nobody should miss Nick Castellanos, as far as a baseball player, there are going to be parts of like what his floor was, because at the end of the day, the back of the baseball card for him, and we'll have plenty of time in the coming days. Like next week is probably the better time for the more, hey, what's up with the baseball team in the wake of Nick Castellanos being released? But he wasn't like a terrible, unusable player.
No.
So there may be some folks who are like, I missed this part of his game. But ultimately, losing Nick Castellanos, right, releasing him, does not kill your World Series chances or anything like that.
610-632-0975. Another text. Sean, we can slip one more in here before quickly.
All right. John V checking in saying, I respect Nick Castellanos' letter. Honest and to the point. Did he leave some stuff out? Maybe. But he admitted his fault and was done very Nick.
I think it's I sort of didn't mind the letter either, because he didn't make himself – I don't think he made himself a victim at all. Like, no. I think he certainly didn't – He depicted himself as being a unprofessional guy.
Yeah,
he painted himself unprofessional, which he was, by the way.
The Miami incident part of the letter, because that was like titled, it was like a second chapter of the Nick Castellanos memoirs. That was one where he like took complete onus of his actions on that night in that moment, right? But the part where he says, don't let the media shape your opinion and come up with your own, that is a little bit where it's saying, okay, I'm covering myself a little bit here. Now, he has a right to, and maybe he is right to with the way that article's portrayed. I wasn't in the locker room.
No, and two, again, Matt had quotes. Those are the words of the people in their opinion of what they said.
Yes.
It's not Matt's opinion. Matt quoted people. So much coming your way. So much we're going to get to. We'll get more of your texts. Your calls, too, at 610-632-0975. Do you bring your kid to batting practice? You might want to ask JT. It's Kincade and Salciunas on the Fanatic.
No.
I love when it's like take your kid to work day? They used to have one when I worked in the NHL. They would have a kids' day matinee games.
Oh, nice.
And so for my TV job, my daughter was very good as a little kid, 5, 6-year-old, 7-year-old, at being able to memorize stuff and do stuff. So my director was like, let Olivia do the keys to the game on the television and the Jumbotron. So she did it as a 5-year-old.
Nice. That's awesome.
And then he started to use her as a bit that Olivia would do stuff on the TV. So from the time she was a kid, little kid, till the Thrashers left town, she did TV bits for the team as a little girl. She interviewed players, interviewed coaches, and stuff. I think take your kid to work day is great if it's invited and it's awesome. A lot of players in the Phillies have kids. The Liam thing was way overdone.
Yeah.
Way overdone.
It's a little bit different because he doesn't live here the full time during the season, right? He's down in Florida, so when he is here, I understand Nick wanting to spend as much time with him as possible. And the other thing, too, is the fan base very much embraced it. Like, I thought the Nick Castellanos, Liam Castellanos dynamic was very endearing to this fan base.
It's wonderful from him and his father-son relationship. It's great.
Yeah, and I don't think
But it can't interfere with the team.
Right. I don't think it's apples to apples to, like, other players on the team's kids because clearly that family dynamic, he doesn't see him as much. And
but their kids aren't on the field doing that.
And that's also fair. I just
like there are a lot of players on that team who have kids that could be there doing batting practice, could be there shagging fly balls, who are there, and they don't.
I just don't know how much that would bother somebody in the clubhouse. Like, I don't know how much they see Liam Castellanos and they're like, why is this little punk running around?
I will tell you that there are many players in baseball that I've seen over the years when players do that don't like it.
Yeah,
and they don't like kids in the clubhouse.
Yeah,
and I know Ricky talked about it yesterday. Boys in the clubhouse, girls aren't allowed in the clubhouse.
Right.
A lot of times.
That's a locker room, so yeah.
Boys being in the clubhouse, like little kids being around the clubhouse, I can tell you there's a lot of baseball players that do not like it.
Here's the thing. For Nick Castellanos coming in here and feeling like he was disrespected based on who he thought he was, and then for other people saying he got preferential treatment, clearly Nick Castellanos saw...
They were catering to him, though.
Yeah, in certain ways they absolutely were, and I do also believe in the way he was treated as a player. Feeling slight at some points is warranted. So... there's a point in favor of, Nick, you had it pretty solid here in a lot of ways.
Hey, let's check out today's headlines with Sean Rodman.
Today's headlines with Sean, no relation to Dennis Rodman.
All right, today's headlines brought to you by Lundy Law. For over 70 years, Lundy Law has been fighting for injured people. If you need them, remember the name Lundy Law. Your injury lawyers, visit LundyLaw.com. That's LundyLaw.com. All right, first up, let's start in the college football world. Quarterback of Ole Miss, Trinidad Chambliss, he was granted a 6th year of eligibility by a judge in Mississippi. The Ole Miss quarterback argued to a judge that medical evidence was ignored by the NCAA for an injury while he was at Ferris State. The NCAA is expected to appeal this, but what are your thoughts here?
He's going to be 26, if I'm not mistaken.
He's up there. I know that.
I think he's going to be 26 playing. I don't know why you wouldn't want to get onto a pro career because I bet you he'd have a chance. I do believe he would have a chance to be a third quarterback, practice squad guy, something like that in an NFL career. I'm shocked that he wants to go back.
He'll be 24 in August.
Oh, 24. Okay. So he would get to the NFL at around 25.
Yeah, right. Which is not crazy, but
because he is going to get I think he's going to get a shot to be on an NFL roster.
Yeah, I agree with you. Now I'm king. Hey, stay in school as long as you want, have fun, be Peter Pan. But I'm also not going to be a guy sitting here and saying, like, oh, okay, try and game the system to get more years of eligibility. Like, my honest take on this is some guys push the envelope too much. I don't think Chambliss is at that point yet, like guys who are like 9th-year seniors or anything. And this is what NIL opens you up for, is when you have NIL and you can make this type of money at the college ranks, if you feel more comfortable who you are as a college quarterback versus being the third guy on an NFL roster, that's something that appeals to people.
Sure.
All right, next up, let's start with go to a feel-good story in the NBA. Nikola Topic, he was a first-round pick a couple of years ago out of the Oklahoma City Thunder. He missed his first year because of an injury. Then, after the first game of this season, he was diagnosed with testicular cancer, so he hadn't played an NBA game, and he made his debut last night. Here's the crowd's reaction to an ovation him coming on, and then his first bucket.
Standing ovation here at Paycom Center. What a moment.
Do people know where the phone booth is anymore?
You know what?
He's right there.
Oh, Topich! That's his NBA moment. First field goal of his career.
That's awesome moment, and as someone who is a testicular cancer survivor, I can tell you that is that's a great moment. And one of the things, and it's is strange, is that one of the things that you have to overcome is there's a real problem with shortness of breath and things like that.
Yeah.
For him to get in the cardio shape to be able to run up and down the court and all that's an accomplishment.
Absolutely. It's a great story. It's awesome to hear these stories of the recovery and then return to that level of athlete, too. It's just like, thank you, Sean, because there's a lot of stuff we're going to argue about today between us and between the listeners. There's some great stuff out there. That's why we love
That's
sports.
a beautiful story.
And one last thing that's a good thing that I think everybody here in the U.S. would like, but USA beat Latvia yesterday 5-1, and here's the fourth goal from Brock Nelson, a beautiful goal passing-wise from the U.S.
Here comes Jack Hughes. Hughes dropping it back off the quick behind the back pass. He can jump. Back to Jack Hughes. Nelson, score! Wow! An absolute thing of beauty.
I love the he scores. Wow. Like the natural reaction. It's just like, wow.
That play deserved it. If you haven't seen the video, it's being posted a lot on social media. It's just the ultimate tic-tac-toe goal. It is Latvia. So
I got you.
The gold medal hopes are going to rest on more than that. But Team USA getting off to a nice little start. And that just shows you the level of talent you're getting in this year's Olympics that you haven't since 2014, the last time pros were able to play.
3 o'clock games on 3:10 Saturday and Sunday, by the way.
Oh, I'm going to be watching.
Yeah, that's good. So, and they should be able to win both of those games. So keep it moving.
They better bring home the gold. Come on,
That'd be
boys.
so much fun. All right, Nick Castellanos didn't trust advice from 2 people in the workplace. It seems egregious, but wow. Am I going to agree with Nick Castellanos? Not completely. I can't wait to hear Connor's thoughts on it, too. We're going to get to it. The second half of Kincade Salciunas comes your way next here on 97.5 The Fanatic.
Now on 97.5 The Fanatic Sports Update.
Nick Castellanos' time in Philly is over. I'm Sean Rodman, and moments before his release, Nick Castellanos posted on his Instagram a letter to Phillies fans as well as a letter addressing the Miami incident. Castellanos admitted to bringing a beer into the dugout after he was benched last June in his hometown of Miami, which is against league rules. Dave Dombrowski spoke yesterday on why it took so long for a solution between the Phillies and Castellanos.
We've spent a long time trying to make a trade. When I say they're trying to move his contract for minimum return from a dollar perspective and player perspective, it just hasn't worked out, and at some point you just have to say, well, this isn't going to work.
The Phillies' first Grapefruit League game is not until next Saturday, the 21st. The NBA All-Star Weekend is underway, though. VJ Edgecombe will participate in the Rising Stars round robin on Vince Carter's team tonight. Tyrese Maxey will participate in the three-point contest on Saturday and will start in the All-Star game on Sunday. Team USA's men's hockey team won its first game at the Olympics 5-1 yesterday over Latvia. They're back in action tomorrow. This update is brought to you by Mothers Against Drunk Driving. For victims of drunk and drug driving, your grief is unique, but you are not alone. You always have a place at MAD. Call the 24-hour victim helpline at 877-MAD-HELP or visit madd.org. I'm Sean Rodman on the home of the Sixers, Flyers, and the best birds coverage, 97.5 The Fanatic and the Fanatic app.
It's been a very, very spirited Friday morning. And it's Friday the 13th.
Yeah, it is.
You're not superstitious at all, are you? Or are you? With sports, you are.
Very.
But you're not about life, about sports, you are.
John, I think I can predict coin tosses. Of course I'm superstitious.
I don't think that's superstition.
Yeah,
is
you
it?
lost me $5 there.
Yeah, all right, shut up. That's Ray Dunn.
Have you paid
That's
him
Ray
back?
Dunn's fault. Bad guy Ray Dunn left me during my moment of need.
I mean, is it?
I owe
like,
a lot of people money.
I don't
there.
consider that superstition that you got a coin toss wrong. I
But
mean,
no,
you will if a black cat crosses your path, you're not
I'm thinking about it.
really.
Oh, yeah.
wow.
Yeah, I'm thinking about it. I'm not
Now-
walking under a ladder.
Now, Friday the 13th today, I start the car. I'm pulling the car out of the garage. Beep, and I hear the little alert go off, and I'm like, what the hell? I figure sometimes we will have a cat or a fox or something in our neighborhood or a coyote or something that will actually run across in the driveway and so cause the car to go, there's something in the driveway. And it always freaks me out because I'm like, is it a person? But you'll sometimes it'll be an animal, a deer, whatever it is. Left front tire. And I'm like,
Yeah.
you got to be kidding me.
That's a tough one.
Friday the 13th.
Yes, it is. So try and stay safe
Be
out
lucky
there.
today.
Be lucky.
Be lucky today. So we start out, though. It was a strange day yesterday for the Phillies. We've been talking about it all morning. That Nick Castellanos is finally, by the Phillies, released. To summarize quickly, and I think it's important we do this, Connor, we summarize where we started the show today. Connor
Yes.
and for Andrew. Summarize where we started. Both you and me and Sean Rodman. We started out the show today because you don't want any misconceptions. We all consider there's one villain in this story.
Yeah,
It's Nick Castellanos.
absolutely. But this isn't a Disney movie where there's the bad guy and everyone else is.
And everybody else is good.
Yeah,
Right. This story has layers, as you like to say, layers.
yeah, like an onion.
Yes. The Nick Castellanos, though, is the main villain of the story. If there's somebody that gets the vast majority of the blame, it's Nick Castellanos. And there's no discussing anything of that before it gets spun any other way.
But blame for a professional baseball fallout is not the same. The guy's not going to jail for
Correct.
this, all right? So
Yes, exactly.
there's a level of respect that needs to be held for the person, while also acknowledging that the time as a teammate and member of the Philadelphia Phillies did not go well largely because of him.
Nick Castellanos, we would also say, is that I believe if you think that I said it again. Matt Gelb is one of the most respected writers, one of my favorite writers to read, a guy that I think is one of the best in his business. And if he writes something, it is well sourced, it is well written, it is well executed. I completely trust it. That doesn't mean that his sources, though, who give him quotes, I completely trust what they have to say. There's a difference to that. I believe they can have their own personal agendas in what they tell Matt Gelb. Matt Gelb's job is not to say, well, I got this quote. I don't believe this quote.
Right. You report the news.
Correct. His job is to report what people say. I believe the Philadelphia Phillies, completely with agenda, said, we're getting ready to release Nick Castellanos. Well, we'll show him. We're going to get every bit of dirty laundry that we can to make our case because we look bad here. We all agree, Sean, Connor, and I. With all of the information we now know of what went on, Nick Castellanos should have been released in November.
Yeah, this should have come quicker. Now, Dave Dombrowski, and I wonder, we're going to talk about Dave coming up in the 9 o'clock hour, right? We're trying to break this down
Correct.
into hourly
As far as so
bits.
we can focus a little.
Yeah, but Dave Dombrowski, I almost give him more credit for attempting to trade Nick Castellanos, even knowing all the baggage. That if you think, like, we didn't know this stuff, right? Because Matt Gelb had not reported it yet. But if you think that there are other organizations around baseball and players don't talk to each other and, like, teams did not know what the baggage would be if you were trading for Nick Castellanos, considering what the thoughts were on him in Philadelphia, you're crazy. So at least Dave gave it the old college try.
Yeah, but it was way too long. Nobody in baseball circles thought into the offseason because they knew the Phillies were going to have to release him.
Exactly.
So that's where that was. But what we're going to get to now, the next topic, is one where I'm very torn. It appears from the piece that Matt Gelb wrote, and everybody should check it out in The Athletic. I think it's very well done. Nick Castellanos publicly, by what he would say to teammates and what he would let be known, did not trust the advice of Rob Thompson or his hitting coach because they didn't play in the major leagues. And before I give my thoughts, I want to hear Connor's thoughts on this because mine are very strong. And I want to make sure that mine that are very strong don't just overwhelm the discussion. So when you hear that Kevin Long and Rob Thompson's opinions, Nick Castellanos, according to various people, he did not want their advice. He did not trust their advice. He even said it on Mookie Betts' podcast. So it is not like this isn't a fact. He let it be known on a podcast. He only trusted guys who laced up their shoes and swung the bats at the major league level. So he didn't want to hear from Kevin Long's advice. Your thoughts on that before I give mine?
Yeah, this is going to be really interesting because at some level I do get it. I really do. You want someone who has that experience, who understands, and it's not like an accounting job. All due respect to the accountants out there, very important job. But Major League Baseball is this really unique experience that you only kind of get if you did it, right? Like having that level of pressure, that level of focus, that level of money on the line, everything. So I understand wanting someone who you feel like understands where you're at. Now, where I'll counter what Nick has to say is the guy who just led the National League in homers and RBIs and was runner-up to MVP, who just had the best lefty-on-lefty season power-wise in the history of the game of baseball, credited the change to his approach against lefties to coaching from Kevin Long. And Rob Thompson has a bunch of guys in that clubhouse, Bryce Harper, JT Realmuto, Trey Turner, just to look at some of the veterans on the position player side that have been around baseball for a long time, had a lot of success, and do not feel the same way. So while Nick is entitled to his opinion, I can point to other players who do not feel that that's necessary. So I don't think it's just hey, Nick's right. These guys don't know what they're talking about. But I understand the wanting someone who shares your perspective more than someone who didn't play at that level.
I'm going to say my opinion on the whole situation with it is this. First of all, if Nick Castellanos publicly was to teammates, was showing disrespect to members of authority in the organization, that is completely unacceptable. Absolutely unacceptable. If he was, let's just say, not in his own mind, wanting to listen to them, I completely get it. Completely. And I'll just share a story. Being in this business as long as I've been in it, gosh, I know the years just don't even seem to add up anymore. Like 30, between being an intern to now, like 37, 38 years.
God, you're old.
It's unbelievable. It's unbelievable. How can I look this good is what you're really saying, Connor. That's what you really meant, right?
That's what you're hearing.
That's what you really meant. No, that's what I'm hearing, exactly. I'm like Nick Castellanos. I'm hearing one thing, you're saying another. I have had program directors, bosses in the business. I've got one now. In Scott Masteller, who was my boss at ESPN back in the day when I did my national show. And Scott was a guy who was my boss from back then. And Scott was a guy who I credit a lot with helping me build a career. And he's now gets to be my boss again. Lucky for Scott. He can't wait probably to be done with it. But it's the idea that Scott was a play-by-play broadcaster. Scott had done talk radio. Scott had run radio stations like this one. Scott had run ESPN radio nationally. Scott had been Mike and Mike's boss Scott had been Colin Cowherd's boss. Scott brought Colin Cowherd to the national stage. If I don't listen to every damn thing he says and every bit of advice that he gives, I'm an idiot. I'm an idiot.
If you couldn't guess out there, today is payday at the Fanatic.
No, it's next week. I've had bosses, though, in my life that do not have Scott's resume and have never done my job. And I've been given these bosses, and they've been my boss. Now, one thing I've never done is been a disrespectful employee. One thing no one's ever been able to say is, John was unprofessional, John usurped them, John treated them like crap, John didn't listen. But I absolutely would hear advice sometimes and go, dude, you've never done my job. You have no idea how to do my job. You do not understand how to do my job. You've never done it. You have never, ever had the pressure of doing my job. You've never, ever, no one's ever hired you to do my job. And for many of them, I've gone, in my head, I'm going, I know for a fact you've tried to get my job in the past in your life, and you never got hired to do it.
I think that's something.
So when I hear their advice, I'd be like, dude, I can give you the advice. I can give that.
I think a lot of people can relate to that. Like, that's not just a sports thing. That's not just a media thing. I think that's
like
a life
if somebody
thing.
in life could understand that.
Yeah, a boss that you don't believe is well aware enough of your situation to correctly lead you. I think that's something any person out there has gone through.
Right, and it's like the whole idea being, though, is that, but if you disrespect that boss publicly, if you go in the office and you treat that boss like a jerk, that's unacceptable. And it appears that that's what that's what Nick Castellanos was doing. So Nick is the villain in that story. He should never treat Rob Thompson that way. He should never treat Kevin Long that way. If he feels that way about them, that should be something he shares with his spouse, with his close buddies, but it should not be brought to the workplace. And it should not be something that he's doing.
No.
So Nick's wrong on that. But Kevin Long? What's Kevin Long going to teach Nick Castellanos about batting at the major league level? I'm sorry. You can do all the video work you want.
Here's what I'll bring up, right? So a couple of things. First, the guy that just won the Super Bowl, Mike McDonald, as the head coach of the Seattle Seahawks.
Yep.
Where did he play ball at?
Yes.
That's the thing.
No, I got you.
It's not a guarantee of good coach, bad coach. It's something that some players feel necessary, but you just had a guy win in the toughest league to win in the NFL and say, okay, I didn't play a lick of ball at any level that
Bill
ever
Belichick.
mattered. Yeah, exactly.
Bill Belichick.
And he had no problem getting that team to follow and listen, and clearly he knows what he's talking about. So there are instances where guys that did not play at a certain level sometimes make better coaches than guys who did.
And that's where I bring it to, and I'm glad you did it because I didn't even have to get to the point. Bill Belichick earned his chops and got people to follow him. Bill Belichick got Bill Parcells to say, this guy knows his stuff. Bill Parcells, one of the greatest coaches of his era, saw Bill Belichick and said, guys, you follow him. He's smart. Listen to him. He's great. Rob Thompson, look, Kevin Long.
He's got a resume and a lot of folks in his corner that are
some of them on this roster.
Yes.
And I'm going to say to you, I've said it many times. I don't see the results.
Yeah, and this goes back to the overvaluing the hitting coach thing.
So to me, what I was just saying to you is that maybe Nick Castellanos says, dude, I don't see you getting results with a bunch of people, and your message doesn't work with me, so he sort of tunes it out. Again, Nick's the bad guy on being disrespectful about it. But I totally can understand the message.
And here's where I think I can move you off your position.
Okay, do it.
I believe, because this is something counter to your point that you've been very bullish on. Why Nick Castellanos is not the reliable person to make this determination. One of the things that you have in the past gotten so upset with Nick Castellanos with is how he talked about how he fixes things, how he prepares, how he works. Remember, I don't watch film. I don't do that. I don't go back and look at myself and evaluate all of this stuff.
Absolutely. I don't have a plan when I go up there.
Exactly.
And I have criticized him for that.
Absolutely. I imagine that at a baseline level, a player that already believes that is not one that's very open. He'd be tough to coach, I think, from somebody who'd done it for a long time because of the way he looks at baseball. He's very much a field guy.
Completely fair.
And
completely fair.
With that, now he may be right in this. It's I don't know, but when I see other guys that are very into the idea of breaking everything down, going through these strategies the way a hitting coach would, and then I hear this guy who's very vocally said, I don't do all that crap, man. I just go out and play baseball. Well, him not listening to the coaches because they don't have anything to teach him seems more like a Nick problem than a Kevin Long, Rob Thompson problem.
Well, one of the things that I notice is, and I've seen it over the years in sports, is that each coach realizes I've got to change my message I got to coach differently. Jimmy Johnson, back in the day, and I'm sure you can find the story, Jimmy Johnson had a player publicly complaining to the press that Emmitt Smith and Michael Irvin were being treated differently. And Jimmy Johnson got confronted with it. And Jimmy Johnson, behind a microphone, was like, yeah, I sure as hell treat Emmitt Smith and Michael Irvin differently. They definitely do get coached differently. Yes, they do. What's the point? Every coach treats players differently and maybe reaches them differently. And again, Nick is wrong. If he disrespected Rob Thompson or disrespected Kevin Long, he is completely in the wrong. But all I will say is I can sort of understand if Kevin Long's messaging and everything to him was going, you're not listening, like he didn't vibe with way he teaches, and then he's going, dude, what'd you ever do?
Yeah,
you never made the major leagues.
I just don't think with what Castellanos has talked about with this process, I don't know who he would vibe with.
As you're saying.
Exactly. It's kind of like I think about the white man can't jump scene where like you hear Jimmy, but you don't hear Jimmy. I feel like that's how Nick Castellanos is with baseball. And how do you argue with that? Like, how do you teach that? It's just kind of this unobtainable thing of like, yeah, unless you play at the major league level, you don't get it. And there's nothing you can show me on film that's going to show me what I'm doing. I feel it because I'm here, and you don't because you never were. And to me, that doesn't make him – he shouldn't be the poster child for who should be coaching who. But it doesn't mean that your point of having that major league experience – is important, and I think the Phillies agree with you because who is the most recent addition to the Philadelphia Phillies major league coaching staff?
Yep.
He has that major league experience, and that was something that the Phillies really pursued this offseason.
They wanted it.
They created a position to open up another one, and I find it very hard to believe they did that without Don Mattingly in mind.
And Don Mattingly talks hitting to me? I'm listening.
Exactly. So I think the Phillies see that, and they covered it, but I also understand why, like, my point is just, hey, maybe Nick's not the guy that should be putting this message out there as much. But we have Chris and Lancaster on the phone.
Shukri says he's a good caller, so let's get after it.
Let's find out. Chris, you're live here on 97.5 The Fanatic.
Hey, guys.
Hey, buddy.
I mean, the Castellanos situation, the Matt Galb article, all those things aside, because it's a great talking point. Why are we not dealing with Dave Dombrowski's gross mismanagement of this organization?
Oh, we will. We're going to get into that in the next hour, and I agree with you. There's some of that, and we're getting into it. Believe me. But the thing is, though, we don't want it today. I think should be about the main villain of this story. And though I've defended Nick on some points, the main villain of this story is Nick Castellanos.
100%.
Okay.
But that's the thing is that it's a situation, it's a story. It happened. It's awesome. To talk about.
It's not awesome though, Chris.
No, not awesome. The situation, just the talking point itself is interesting, intriguing.
Sure,
it's there, but the amount of money that Dave has cost the organization in this situation, in the JT situation,
sure,
all of the things he's done this year. I mean, Hall of Fame GM aside, the amount of money that he's cost John Middleton. Why is he still there?
Well,
it's tough.
There's going to be a hot seat. There's going to be a hot seat. I think he's got this is it. This is it. This team, 2026, they got to win.
Now, here's the thing, right? And we're going to get deeper into this in the 9 o'clock hour.
And lots of your text at 610-632-0975. We'll get into those, too.
Clearly, this was a mismanagement of the Nick Castellanos situation in the moment. The roster move, this should have happened sooner. The devaluing the asset, that point still stands, even with what we know now. But anyone who's looking like, oh, okay, Nick Castellanos didn't want to come here. You threw $100 million at him to get him here. You could have invested that money better. He was signed in the offseason ahead of 2022.
2022. And
that investment led to the Philadelphia Phillies going to the World Series that year. Now, was Nick Castellanos worth the $100 million over his Phillies tenure? No. And you had to eat $20 million for him to not play for you this year. But I can't take away the fact that signing that guy on Kyle Schwarber was the offseason directly before you played for a world championship.
No question. I mean, it's such a, your word layered just makes me laugh because I always think of that word when I think of you, is that you use it, and I like it. It's a layered conversation when it comes to Nick Castellanos. You can't just, he is the villain of this story, but there's a lot to it, and not all of it's bad. And by the way, the people, I love our listeners on social media. All you got to do is look at the pictures that are out there. And a lot of it's from Matt Rourke and the cookouts. Nick Castellanos was not some pariah. It's just not true. It's just not true. But the quotes from people with an agenda to paint him that way, that's what they're trying to paint it as. Matt Gelb just reports what they say. That's a difference.
Yeah,
that's a difference.
That certainly is.
Now, Connor brought up an interesting point. Did he want to be here in the first place? And it's something worth talking about. Was he even a good faith team member and an organization member from the beginning? We're going to check the text line. So if you've been texting in, we'll get to those texts at 610-632-0975. We'd love to hear from you, too, if you want to give us a call. 610-632-0975. It's a big reaction day. Nick Castellanos is gone, but the fallout continues. Here on 97.5 The Fanatic.
Now on 97.5 The Fanatic Sports Update.
Nick Castellanos is gone. I'm Sean Rodman, and moments before his release, Nick Castellanos posted on his Instagram a letter to Phillies fans as well as a letter addressing the Miami incident. Castellanos admitted to bringing into a beer into the dugout after he was benched last June in his hometown of Miami, which is against league rules. Dave Dombrowski spoke yesterday and addressed the Miami incident.
That was 7 months ago, so it's a long time ago. We spoke about it at the time we had you arrested at the time. Rob Thompson and I did with Nick. But that wasn't the final or determining factor, because if that was, we would have done that at that particular time. So just.
The Phillies' first Grapefruit League game is not until next Saturday, the 21st. The NBA All-Star Weekend is underway. VJ Edgecombe will participate in the Rising Stars round robin on Vince Carter's team tonight. Tyrese Maxey will participate in the three-point contest on Saturday and will start in the All-Star game on Sunday. This update is brought to you by Papa John's. Introducing new pan pizza from Papa John's. Ordering a medium one-topping pan pizza, just $11.99 when you download the app, Papa John's app, or at papajohns.com. Better ingredients, better pizza, Papa John's. I'm Sean Rodman on the home of the Sixers, Flyers, and the best Birds coverage, 97.5 The Fanatic and the Fanatic app.
Well, you know we're getting into today, Ray Dunn. It's what we've gotten into all day long. We've had a few little small detours, but for the most part, we've been talking about the Nick Castellanos release yesterday, which we were in unison completely. Connor Thomas in for Andrew Salciunas today. That complete unison that it shouldn't have come on February the 12th. It should not have come on February the 12th. There's Dave Dombrowski's ability to read the tea leaves is poor. Poor.
I don't know that that's what that was though. Right. Like
the only thing he could have been hoping for was an injury. That some team was going to have an injury and they would give him something for him.
Right, but that's hoping for at least something. Like, so let's say the season ends and you're like, well, we can't have this guy on the team anymore. We're going to move on from him. And they cut him the day after they lose to the Dodgers. Right?
Well, I wouldn't have done that.
Just for example, though,
exactly.
Right? You're in the same spot you are today. You're eating the same amount of money. The same exact stuff happens. He wasn't like hanging out with the team this offseason. So you got it done before he reported the spring training. And you gave yourself 3 months of maybe a miracle happens. But you're in no worse spot today than you were if you would have released him at the start of the offseason.
I think you clear the air of the story. And you take it away, you take it off your plate, and it's gone.
That's a very good point.
And you also make your players don't have to talk about it.
2 days into spring training, pitchers and catchers report on Wednesday, and this news comes out, and it's just like, okay.
And they're going to have to. There are players that are going to have to. They're being badgered about it.
I get that part of it very much. From a roster standpoint, I don't think it makes a difference. From the how we deal with this standpoint, I totally understand your point.
If you wanted to get in with us, you can at 610-632-0975. Where are you falling on this as far as we're in complete agreement? The villain of the story is Nick Castellanos. But as you pointed out, Connor, it's not a Disney Channel movie where somebody is, someone's the mustache-twirling villain and everybody else is good with angels. There's a lot of bad to go around. And by the way, again, and speaking to another ex-major leaguer who does television now, saying it isn't a good look for the Phillies. The Matt Gelb piece is not a good look for the Phillies. Players around Major League Baseball, not on the work of Matt Gelb, let me make that clear. Matt Gelb's piece is excellent. Well done, well-sourced, A+. But that piece coming out right after the Phillies release Nick Castellanos, and then what amounts to, because of the quotes, what amounts to a hit piece from the quotes does not look good for the Phillies and does not play well with Major League players.
Yeah, I mean,
they see that, and it doesn't sit well with them.
If you've been hearing all this stuff about how great it is to play at Citizens Bank Park and how well the clubhouse is run under Rob Thompson, I mean, we had a quote from Whit Merrifield 2 days ago saying, like, oh, that clubhouse, amazing, the way that they handled the personalities and everything in there. Like, I loved my time there. This comes out, and you're like, did you, Whit? Was everything okay?
Right.
Like, do I really want to go play for that team? And, hey, players still will, right?
Sure.
Because the Phillies will spend money, and this is a place where they're competitive, and very few organizations in baseball with no salary cap as it's currently structured are willing to put up the money to be true competitors. So they're not going to be, like, frozen out from free agents, but they're in a worse standing today around the league than they were before this came out.
Did you see what Liliana Kemp put up?
I did not.
Otto Kemp's wife? Not many people know this, but right when Otto was moved up, Nick offered us a place to stay in their home. They had a full house with a toddler and a newborn, but didn't hesitate for a second to bring us in. I'd come home to Jess cooking for everyone, followed up by a Toy Story marathon with little Otto, baby Kobe, and Liam. Jess and Nick treated us like family, and I hope one day I can do the same for someone else. Thank you for guiding Otto and giving us a home away from home. Love you, and thank you, Casti family. Weston Wilson. Same thing.
Yeah, I'm very familiar with the Weston Wilson story where he had him live at his house.
Exactly. Well, they did too. The Kemps did too.
Right? Not a bad guy.
The organization did not have any problem with directing young players that were coming up to saying, this is good. Nick Castellanos is opening his house to you. Stay with him. The people who give quotes, again, Matt Gelb writes a story. Matt Gelb is just taking the quotes. It's not Matt's job to go, all right, I took this quote, but now let me give you my opinion. I don't think that quote's real. He just is there to get the quote. People give quotes with agendas. And if they don't like a guy, Their quote's going to be, it's anonymous. Let me get the knife out. I can stab this guy right in the back sometimes. Not saying everybody's, but some. And some of those quotes, they're very counter to what you see. I'd invite you to go to Matt Rourke's Instagram and look at the parties hosted at his house, Nick Castellanos. And the parties that Nick Castellanos was at with his peers 2 days before the Dodgers series. And I want you to tell me that this was a guy that the people in the clubhouse didn't want anything to do with. And I'm going to tell you it's a load of BS.
They say
a load of BS.
They say a picture's worth 1,000 words. The good news is, in a 4-hour radio show, I think we're going to go well over 1,000 today breaking this down. So it's a great point with the pictures, and it tells you something where anyone who's on the text line,
there are layers.
We'll take those texts of like, oh, Nick Castellanos, terrible. Like, I'm so glad he's gone. Good riddance. Get rid of. Never think of this guy again. I understand the emotional reaction that way, but there's more to it than just, hey, this is the bad guy. And we move on knowing that he ruined all of this stuff over his time here in Philadelphia, and that's the full story. That's not the full story.
What do we got on the text line there, Mr. Sean Rodman?
Yeah, we have one person checking in, blaming another person that we mentioned a little bit, but not too much, saying Harper has too much power in the locker room, alluding to, I guess, some of those quotes from that article.
I can't go that far, right? Like, where does that come out in this story? Now, if there's things where you say, like, hey, roster construction and stuff like that, and Johnny, you've been on that point for a while. You don't want him saying who comes in here and who doesn't.
Oh, and I believe he does. I believe he has a lot to say about it.
But I think that's separate from the Nick Castellanos.
Yeah, I think it's, well, look, I'm not in the least bit I'm not in the least bit shocked that they found some quotes that are very, very negative on Nick Castellanos. And I absolutely would believe with 100% certainty that Bryce Harper's behind some of them.
Yeah, I can't guarantee you, but I'll guarantee it. Like,
as much as I can guarantee an anonymous quote, I would absolutely believe it.
But here's the thing, right? Like, so let's talk about some of the stuff that was in the article. Like Nick Castellanos sitting at his locker, listening to his own personal speaker, listening to his music after the Phillies lose, but he had a good game. Like, I don't think Bryce Harper had to go to the rest of the team and say, hey, do you see what this guy's doing?
I believe that behavior could piss people off.
Yeah, exactly.
And you know what? It would piss me off.
So, like, the idea...
And I don't believe that story's made up.
No, the idea Harper has too much power, to me, alludes to, hey, he whipped support in the locker room for, like, that's the bad guy. You guys should not like Nick Castellanos, and I don't think that was the situation.
I don't either.
But I think Harper didn't like him. I think he had some warranted reasons.
And I don't. I believe that. I believe that he is a guy who, to me, Nick and him didn't get along.
Exactly. And there's two sides to not getting along.
Exactly.
Always are.
And it seems as if Trey Turner and many others got along with him pretty well. Pretty well.
But here's the thing. Right?
A lot of the young guys got along with him. Marsh, Stott, Kemp, Weston Wilson, even JT in some of these pictures. Seems like they were getting along with him pretty well.
Yeah, but your job description as a Major League Baseball player making the amount of money that Nick Castellanos did in this town, you're not going to get along with everybody. So I'm not saying you have to be friends with everybody because of your paycheck. But there's more to being a good teammate and good member of an organization than who likes you and who doesn't. Conducting yourself the proper way is what this ultimately comes down to. And when you have the opportunity to talk about, like, oh, why didn't you like this guy? That's when all the stories come out, right?
And when you do it, and again, is the whisper down the lane. So, you know.
Yeah, well, here's the thing. Credit to the Phillies. We didn't have whispers on Nick Castellanos as far as, like, where he was in the locker room to this extent during his actual time playing for this team. I think that's a big credit to the locker room in some sense, that this stuff did not come out, where guys were hurling these insults publicly, even behind the anonymity sense of what Nick Castellanos was to this team, right? So in some way, it's a credit to the Phillies that it took this long to come out. In other ways, I think it's a detriment to the manager and the great clubhouse we believed he had that these things were going on at all.
What do we got on the text line, Sean Rodman? It has been a busy morning.
Yes, it's been a busy morning. Anthony in Charleston checks in saying, I'm glad that Castellanos is gone. I love the Phillies, what the Phillies are doing with their bullpen. I'm smelling a trip to the World Series.
I can tell you this. I love the bullpen. I love very much, and I've said it before. And I don't know if we've debated this, Connor, or not, but I've said it all the time. I would rather have a good rotation than a great rotation. If I could have a good rotation and a great bullpen over having a great rotation and a good bullpen.
Yeah, and I'm on the other side of that. We've had that conversation a time or two, and the only reason it's just a pure numbers thing for me. Like, you got to get through the first 6 or 7 innings to get to that good bullpen. Now, in the postseason, you can get through 4 or 5, but if you guys got guys giving up 5 runs as starters, you're screwed. And I know we're talking good, great, right? So I'm just on the other side philosophically, but the bullpen should be a point of real optimism with this team.
Yes, there's some things you can really like about it. I do not believe that they have upgraded right field. I will be glad to, as I've shown today. Hell, I've already apologized to Dave Dombrowski and to Rob Thompson today for 2 things. To Dave Dombrowski, because now I know, at least I understand where his frustration is coming from in those postseason press conferences now, when he would sort of let his frustration with Nick Castellanos come through. Now I understand it more.
I know it's Friday the 13th, but is it a full moon?
No,
We've got a Rob Thompson and Dave Dombrowski apology.
Now, I say the only thing I apologize for is not knowing that information. I have a better understanding of how that could seep through, because knowing my personality, I could let it seep through.
Doesn't mean you're totally wrong, though. It's just more
no.
understanding to why things work.
And for Rob Thompson, I got on Rob Thompson for ending Nick Castellanos' consecutive game streak.
Yeah.
And I absolutely 100% apologized for the critique I gave on that, because I had no idea about the beer thing. And Rob Thompson had every right to end it. You were brought up the good point earlier that, well, then why did he play the next 29 games in a row? And I had less of a problem with that, because I think you're trying to sell it to the guys in the room. We got to win.
Yeah.
We got to win.
Yeah, and at the same time,
we have to still try to win.
At the same time, that to me points a little bit towards what you've said about the manager for a while, and that
he's just. I think he's
softy.
A substitute
I don't
teacher.
say that in totally like a negative way. For some guys, that's good.
He does a lot of things well,
but you got to be able to put your foot down. And
I don't think he
doesn't sound like he really did here.
Nah, I don't think he's a put your foot down kind of guy. Again, so. Was he a good teammate from the beginning, though, and in good faith? We'll get to that with Nick Castellanos. More of your texts. And if you want to try to slip a call in, you can at 610-632-0975. The day after Nick walks out the door, all hell breaks loose. Kincade Salciunas on the Fanatic. So, did Nick Castellanos want to even be here in the first place? That comes out of the Matt Gelb story, and enough smoke to that fire that makes you wonder, as his agent's being prompted, could you find someplace else for me to go? I know the best money offers in Philly. Look, there are many times, and you'll find this in life, you could chase the most money, but you got to do something you don't want to do.
Yeah. I was doing that before I got into radio.
You did. And I did
you
it.
were as well.
I did it too. And you got to make decisions. Not based on money, but based on personal happiness, personal career, agenda, life.
I will say this. I was not being offered $100 million, and I don't believe you were either.
Well, the thing is, though, is that, but did he do it for $20 million more?
Yeah.
Because I went back and read some of the stories. He was reportedly there was reportedly offers on the table from teams that were willing to go into the $65 to $75 million range.
Right.
So really, he did it to just, he went someplace where he didn't want to go? The Marlins were reportedly in the $50 to $60 million range that they could have potentially stretched.
Yeah, now that was a point in Nick Castellanos' career. Like the big commentary on the Phillies, look how old they've gotten. Nick Castellanos was at the prime earning point of his career with that, when that free agency happened for him, the season he had ahead of it. So it's probably like, yeah, 20. I don't really favor Philadelphia over these other places, but this is my biggest cash in. $25 million. I know 100 is the overall number, but that's still a big chunk of change. The difference.
He could have made $40 million. He would have made $40 million less being in Florida.
Yeah.
All right. Tax-wise, he would have been far more favorable. He already had a home there. So expenses-wise, he's saving a lot of money by already being home there. That's where he grew up. That's where his grandparents live. That's where his ex-wife lives. That's where, like, everything. So, I mean, you save a lot of money there by being there. Now, $40 million, I'm not saying for him. I'm not making that decision for him.
Right.
But the thing is, he wasn't willing to bet on himself. He wanted the guaranteed money, but then he's pissed about where he's getting it. And that does, look, it seems like there's enough smoke to that fire that I do believe that story.
I do as well. Now, if anyone thinks Nick Castellanos is the first professional athlete to do that, you're crazy, right?
He's not.
This happens all the time where players go somewhere because of the dollar amount.
Take the most money.
Some folks will go where they're more comfortable, and it works out that that's the most money, or they'll take a little bit of a pay cut to go other places. But this is something that happens. So Nick is not a outlier.
And he's not, by the way,
concerned.
I'm not ripping him for taking the most money.
Yeah.
But I'm saying you can't take the most money and then bitch about and be upset about it.
Exactly.
Like, you got to shut up and go to work.
If you're going to make that decision, the second you sign that contract, you're a Philly.
Right.
Whether you wanted to be there originally or not, you made that. No one held him down and said, we're going to handcuff you to the locker room at Citizens Bank Park, and you're stuck here for 4 years. You made that choice yourself. And rolling into the organization feeling like, okay, well, now, one, they've got to treat me like this guy because I gave up a more favorable market. And two, I don't really want to be here anyway, so I'm going to be a bit of a bad attitude guy. Like, that is not what you signed up for, and you made that choice, not anybody else.
No question. That is where a lack of professionalism seems to be the overriding theme when it comes to Nick Castellanos.
Yeah.
And that's the disappointing part of this, because as I shared earlier on in the show, and one of our listeners sent me a note and goes, John, you should shout your personal interaction with Nick and his personal kindness to you from the rooftops while all these people are trying to be unkind to him today. And he says that I'm actually surprised that your analysis wasn't a little bit more kind. I think my analysis has been honest. But by telling the story of that Nick is, my interactions with Nick, I believe I said it very clearly. Every personal interaction I ever had with him was very, very kind. And I like the guy very much. But I can still be very objective about his behaviors.
Yeah, that's the job, man. Like
his personal interactions, I really, really liked the guy. I really liked him. and found him to be very kind and very nice and a person that I very much liked.
Yeah, like listen, I had a great interaction back in 2018 with Alshon Jeffrey.
Okay.
Where I actually ran out into him out in the city and had a moment. He gave me a moment to have like a 2-3 minute conversation with. Couldn't have been nicer. Great dude. Super Bowl champion. He had just helped the Eagles win their first Super Bowl.
And you're like,
this
wow.
dude's amazing. And then all the stuff comes out with the Josina Anderson pieces and how he was handling that and what the issues were in the locker room. And I'm like, yeah, I like the interaction I had with the guy. I don't think he's a bad person. But because you have a personal interaction with someone where they do something very kind for you, it doesn't mean that they're now beyond fault.
Correct. And that's the bottom line here is that he made a ton of mistakes. The villain in the story is Nick Castellanos. The mistakes he made are clear. But there were mistakes made by this organization. And I do believe this story screams of substitute teacher syndrome with Rob Thompson.
Yeah. Now, do you fault, talking about the contract and like offering the money, do you fault the organization at all for not like evaluating, hey, he doesn't want to be here. We're making this sizable of an investment in him. Do you look at that and say maybe you should have done more research before you signed him?
I can't speak to it because I don't know how much of that was publicly knowledge.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I don't know how much of that was that they could have researched, you know?
Right.
So I'm not gonna criticize them for it because I don't know. But I would hope in the agent community and everything you could have known more.
Yeah.
That you would have known more about that.
I feel like we hear preferences of market all the time. Or
like people
team.
hear teams know where players like and where players want to end up, where players have off-season homes. Remember with Trey Turner, the Phillies with the off-season home thing was part of it.
Yeah.
The Phillies knew that, where his off-season home was and that it was desirable, that potentially the Clearwater thing and everything was potentially desirable to him. But I always laughed at that story a bit because do you know how many Major League Baseball teams are close to Clearwater?
Yeah, right.
But how many of them, though, a lot of the teams that would have been in the bidding for him potentially were West Coast teams that train in Arizona.
Yeah, and he doesn't want to go
Correct.
to the Cactus.
So, so there's a lot to these stories. Sean, we got something on the text line you want to go to us?
Yeah, we have a couple people checking in on the text line right now, and one person says it's very hard to believe Casty wasn't a good teammate. Social media tells a lot that he was a very social with his teammates. He took in the guys who just got called up, and let's not forget who he was, the first teammates to be there for Kerkering after the Dodgers loss.
Yeah,
he was the teammate. He was the teammate.
Yeah, but that's not all what being a good teammate is. That's being a good person.
Right.
Teammate is different, especially in professional sports. These guys are getting paid millions upon millions. It's not just be nice to guys. And, like, he went above and beyond in a lot of ways, but he also really, really underperformed as a teammate in a lot of other ways.
Rodman, if you showed up every day at 5:55 when we're running to get on the air, you could be a wonderful person, but not a good teammate.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You could be a wonderful person. We could like Sean Rodman.
It buys me a beer out on the weekends. We have a good time. We go out. Like,
wow, that's good.
That'd be great. But if you're not getting...
But you're not a good teammate at that point. There is a difference.
Professionalism is part of it as much as being amiable with your teammates.
Yeah. Now, we're going to spend the last hour getting into someone who is a villain in the story. I truly believe, too. Now, he's not the main villain of the story, but his fingerprints are all over the crime scene. Dave Dombrowski, you're under the microscope next in the 9 o'clock hour as the Castellanos saga continues. Connor's in for Andrew, 97.5 The Fanatic. Hey, tomorrow is Valentine's Day, but guess what? You got plenty of time to still get in to Benari Jewelers, Exton and Newtown Square, because they have perfect stuff in their showcases that you could take with you and you could make her the happiest person on earth for this Valentine's Day with refined classics. How about diamond and gemstone earrings, pendants, elegant bracelets? They have stuff today that you could go in and you could get her something that she is going to love. You could get him a watch, maybe something crafted with precision that he's going to wear for a lifetime. I know that I got a gift this year for my wife from Benari. That watch, well, very, very special. Every selection at Benari is backed by uncompromising craftsmanship, remarkable quality. And they are the diamond experts, so if you're last second, you're going to pop the question, well, Benari's the place you want to go. Trust the name that's been part of special Valentine's Days for generations and continues to be for the Kincade family. That's Benari Jewelers, Exton in Newtown Square, and online at benarijewelers.com.
Now on 97.5 The Fanatic Sports Update.
Nick Castellanos has been released. I'm Sean Rodman, and moments before his release, Nick Castellanos posted on his Instagram a letter to Phillies fans, as well as a letter addressing the Miami incident. Castellanos admitted to bringing a beer into the dugout after he was benched last June in his hometown of Miami, which is against league rules. Dave Dombrowski spoke yesterday on why it took so long for a solution with Castellanos and the Phillies.
We've spent a long time trying to make a trade. And when I say they're trying to move this contract for minimum return from a dollar perspective and player perspective, but it just hasn't worked out. And at some point, you just have to say, well, this isn't going to work.
The Phillies' first Grapefruit League game is not until next week, Saturday the 21st. The NBA All-Star Weekend is underway. VJ Edgecombe will participate in the Rising Stars round robin on Vince Carter's team tonight. Tyrese Maxey will participate in the three-point contest on Saturday, and he'll also start in the All-Star game Sunday. This update is brought to you by Apple Vacations. Save up to 40% on spring break and summer vacations during the family travel sale. Plus, kids stay free at select resorts when you book by February 26th. Visit applevacations.com to learn more. I'm Sean Rodman on the home of the Sixers, Flyers, and the best Birds coverage, 97.5 The Fanatic and the Fanatic app.
Kincade and Salciunas, 6 to 10 a.m. Middays with Marks, 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. And Unfiltered with Ricky Bowe and Bill Colarulo, 2 p.m. to 6 p.m. The best sports talk for the best sports fans in the world. 97.5 The Fanatic and the Fanatic app.
Drexel University basketball is
ways with Nick Castellanos. With the data we now have, I do not agree with anyone who finds Nick Castellanos to be a sympathetic figure.
He might have not even given the relationship a chance to get off the ground with some of the reports about him not even wanting to be here in the first place.
I think that is absolutely astute on your part. It would appear from what we're hearing that Nick Castellanos came in with, from the very beginning, with the, crap, I want to make the most money, but do I really want to be in Philadelphia? Can you find someplace else for me to be? Because that may be too much pressure for me.
Here's exactly how I would outline this. Just the base level clip notes of what my argument's going to be. Nick Castellanos, good dude, bad attitude here in Philadelphia.
I think that's fair. But within an hour and a half, a fully sourced, complete laundry list, barrage hit list.
Yeah,
Here's all the bad things that Nick Castellanos ever did as a Philly comes out.
You're seeing 4 years of information within an hour and a half of a transaction. That means that this stuff has been existent and known about and is just now being reported. So I understand what you're getting. What we saw was Dave Dombrowski giving a public slap to the face of Nick Castellanos. What we didn't see is the gun in Dave Dombrowski's back pocket that he wasn't using, that he very well had the right to with all of these reports coming out.
Now back to the show.
Well, it's not Connor advocating gun violence. It was just the alliteration.
It's gun restraint by Dave Dombrowski.
It is.
He had a he had a much bigger card he could have played, and he didn't.
But he didn't.
And not knowing that, it's like, oh, why is he disrespecting Nick Castellanos? And now we're like, oh, well, he was actually holding a lot of stuff in with what these reports are now. Perspective is something you only get with time, and it's a very important thing.
Did Dave Dombrowski soft play this too much, though? And we start the 9 o'clock hour. Connor Thomas is in for Andrew Salciunas today. Andrew will be back on Monday. Sean Rodman in for Connor. And the phone lines are open, and also to the text line open at 610-632-0975. To me, I see a lack of leadership quality out of Dave Dombrowski and out of Rob Thompson in this story, being that both of them seem very passive. This was going on for 3+ years.
Yeah.
And then just kept bubbling out of control. I can promise you that this wouldn't have happened under many other leaders. And it happened under them, under their watch.
Yeah, it's a strength when you build a veteran clubhouse and you trust the guys that you have in there. Like when you have a Kyle Schwarber, who around the league is viewed as one of the great locker room guys in sports, not just in baseball. Like you can be more relaxed as a manager, as someone in the front office, someone with a leadership position, because you believe, hey, they're going to self-police. But then there are instances like the Nick Castellanos one where it requires you to do more, and the laissez-faire attitude that plays in certain circumstances did not play well in this one. I think it was a detriment to the way that Rob Thompson and Dave Dombrowski have handled things. And because they have chosen that style of leadership for this team, it made this situation worse. So there are good times for it. This was not one of them, and they deserve fault for that.
And it's one of the, again, Nick Castellanos is the villain in the story, so before it's misconstrued, he's the villain. But Dave Dombrowski, I will look very much forward to his tenure of leadership being over. I don't like his roster construction. I certainly don't like that all of this, if all of this was going on and it was allowed to continue and it was not moved on from, and it was, I would go as far as to say that after the beer incident, I would have cut bait there and said, I'm done. I'm removing this. If it was as big a problem as some people want to depict it, I would have removed him from the clubhouse.
Yeah, the question is, what was your option, right? Like, where does the team go? And I know he ended up being a guy that they split time with by the time the season was done. But with what he'd accomplished as far as the upside of Nick Castellanos as a player, it would be a really, really tough move to make for a lot of reasons at that point in the season where you believed you had a World Series contending roster. Like, just you move on from your starting right fielder for who? It was too early to make a trade. I guess you could have found something. You didn't really have guys to call. I guess you know what really should have been done?
What's that?
If only you had a minor league outfielder that was close to or ready for the big league level, where he could come up and take
wait
that
a minute.
spot.
You mean like a guy that you're now saying is your everyday center fielder?
Yes.
Yeah.
Now, this is where this gets really tricky with the, hey, you brought up an apology to Dave Dombrowski for more perspective on what the situation was. I wonder how much this situation played into the Justin Crawford not being called up.
You're saying they didn't want him around him?
Not that.
Or, go on.
I'm also saying that I think that is part of it. Like, if the locker room felt to be in flux, I wonder if that's a great place to bring up a guy who's going to be a long-term piece for this team. All due respect to Otto Kemp.
That's not bad. That's not a bad thought process on your part.
Yeah, Otto Kemp is not a guy that's like top prospect. We have long-term future plans for this guy. He was always our guy. Like, he was the dude who forced his way to the major league level because of his play level. And he's also 26. Like, at that point,
Sure.
Bleeper, get off the pot, call him up. But for Justin Crawford, one, you want his first experience to be a good one. Two, let's say they were to trade Nick Castellanos for a bucket of baseballs, open up a position in the outfield, and then Crawford comes up. How do you think it feels to be the guy in the locker room to replace that guy?
Well, if you believe the anonymous player quotes that were very, very anti-Nick Castellanos, very contrary to the photographic evidence we have 2 days before the NLDS, as he's got arms around teammates and hanging out and drinking beers and enjoying steak dinners and partying with teammates, those teammates would probably have welcomed that person with open arms and been happy. Other teammates would have been like, I hope this guy doesn't keep us from reaching our goals, because Nick Castellanos has been one of the most clutch players they've had in the postseason.
Yeah, but I think it's also trouble for those guys who would have liked to see Nick Castellanos move on. Because if you're Crawford coming up, now you're viewed as the guy who's not that guy. Like, you're the replacement for somebody.
I got you.
You've got to be everything that Nick Castellanos wasn't. And in that locker room, you're tied to what Nick Castellanos did wrong and also what he did right. This year, Crawford's not replacing anybody. He's your center fielder, but that spot was open because they didn't re-sign Bader, and we knew that Crawford had a position that they opened for him, but no one's looking at him as like the replacement for Harrison Bader, who was a trade deadline acquisition. So at that point, you would have been putting the kid in a situation where his call-up has a lot more to do with stuff outside of who he is, and maybe that worried them about what that would lead to, the extra stuff that would be on his mind.
Dude, you're smarter than you look, man. That's like you've made me
look
think.
that smart.
You've made me think like that's what I'm saying. You made me look like think like 3 times today. That's a really good point that I hadn't thought of about maybe why they didn't bring up Justin Crawford. That I never thought of.
Well, we didn't know. We didn't know.
I got you. But I never even let that creep into my mind as maybe why they didn't want to bring him up. And it is a good point. I could see that conversation going on in the front office.
And I also don't think Justin Crawford was a guy last year that they looked at and said, hey, we call this guy up, we win the World Series.
Exactly.
Right. If you had a guy that undeniably talented, I don't think anything stops him. But because it's hey, we need this kid to work out long term and we want to bring it along the right way, that would have been a bit of a tricky situation to navigate. So let's see what. Who is this guy? Do you know this person?
I think I'm related
Ryan
to him.
in Ardmore is on the phone line. Ryan, you're live here on 97.5 The Fanatic.
Good morning, gentlemen.
What's up,
Connor,
Ryan?
look at you. You're making John think more often.
Absolutely, that's the idea, right?
And Ryan knows that's not in the Kincade DNA.
It's tough, Mongo smash.
There you go.
So, I'm reading Matt Gelb's article, and it says that, the divorce between the Phillies and Castellanos. And, a divorce, there's 4 things: his side, her side, the truth, and what everyone's going to believe. And unfortunately for Nick Castellanos, there seems to be that everyone's going to believe everything against him. But the guy was the most productive in the playoffs. When the bats went silent, Nick Castellanos kept moving, kept trying. It's a sad thing to happen.
Harper actually holds that title, but as being the most productive. But he's right there with them. He is absolutely right there in the mix as being the guy who was most productive.
Yes, I agree with you. But it seemed like, I got to go with you, John. Over the last 3 years, if this has been bubbling, why wasn't it taken care of sooner?
Yeah, I get it. It bothers me. Right, take care of yourself. And it wouldn't work in a firehouse.
No, it definitely wouldn't. Ryan, appreciate the call,
They'd
man.
get rid of that fireman in the house because if you couldn't trust somebody going into a burning building,
that's life and death type stuff. We're just talking baseball here,
right? I mean, it's like, but you talked about it earlier about going across all lines of work. I talked about it in radio. Mm-hmm. That the idea is that there has to be that chemistry in the workplace and everything. I don't know how many. And I hate it because then I got people going, who are you talking about? It's like I've known a lot of talented young people in radio, people that I watch come up. And I'm like, that guy's really, really talented. And they're absolute idiots. They can't keep a job because they can't behave. They can't act like adults. They can't conduct themselves in the workplace. And they find themselves unemployable. And then they sit in life and go, I don't know why I can't get a job. It's because you act like an ass. And you continue to act like an ass. That's why you can't be employed. You don't understand it because you never look in a mirror. And it works in any line of work.
It definitely does. Now,
it can work. And with Nick Castellanos, he had a $100 million contract, so they couldn't just get rid of him.
No, you couldn't. That was very complicated money-wise. We know the market wasn't there trade-wise. How much of that was the player versus what was going on in the locker room and how much was that known in MLB circles. We're going to find out a lot more about this stuff as it continues. I want to ask you an interesting question.
Yes, sir.
Because we're talking about Dave Dombrowski and Rob Thompson, and I want to know, where does the buck stop on this, right? It's not just Nick Castellanos. I think everybody can see this. There are multiple sides to this story. Ryan, who just called in, brought it up. But ultimately, who is the person where it should have stopped here and said, yeah, this situation can't continue? Because I feel like you're pointing towards the president of baseball operations for Dave Dombrowski should have made a move. I don't know if I agree with you.
Okay, so explain why do you not agree, and then I can retort.
I think it's lower than that.
Okay.
I think it's the manager.
Oh, I think I got to tell you, I think the manager is. I can't believe the manager's getting another year.
Yeah, and for multiple reasons. I mean, after the decisions made in the Dodgers series, just talking strictly baseball, I would have moved on from him. But
I honestly, I would not bet on Rob Thompson to win a game at Connect Four.
But
I don't think he. But Kevin Cooney and I go back and forth about this. Last night, Kevin and I were having an exchange talking about this off the air, and we agree. By the way, Kevin and I agree on Rob Thompson a lot more than we disagree. Like, we agree on the things that he does great. He does a lot of things great. But when I have a club like this, I need a strategist.
Yeah, yes, and that's correct. I'm thinking more, though, from the what does he do perspective. Like, we talk about it with Nick Sirianni all the time. He's an offensive-minded head coach when he was hired. He can't run an offense. So the question is, what do you do here? Rob Thompson's biggest asset, since he's been manager of the Philadelphia Phillies, is he keeps the clubhouse managed. He handles the personalities. The guys want to play for him. And over the course of 162, where they're around each other so much, that is so hugely important.
It's an incredibly. It's the most difficult. It may be the most difficult job that a manager has.
So
people don't believe it.
No, you wouldn't understand.
It might be the most difficult job that a manager has. It's like a psychiatrist.
We don't even fully understand it.
No,
We've had more opportunity to be around teams like this than the average person. But when somebody fails at what they're supposed to be best at, that is the number one person where I say this should have been solved. And Rob Thompson is a clubhouse guru, at least as what he's portrayed as here in Philadelphia. And with a clubhouse issue like this, I can't even point to Dave Dombrowski. Like, he shares blame, obviously. He's not just sitting on the side, no fault in the matter. But this should have been stopped by Thompson. This should have been handled by Thompson. This should have been something much more under control for the manager of the Philadelphia Phillies. And clearly he didn't control it.
Yeah, and I think he's been ineffective in this regard. Effective in other ways, very effective in other ways, but ineffective in this.
Yeah.
And again, with a payroll like this, no one needs to tell me his win totals. That's exactly what his win totals should be. His win totals in the postseason is ineffective to me. And I do believe that could be otherwise. But he is a lot of people are going to say a lot of nice things about Rob Thompson because he's a nice guy. Mm-hmm. He's a nice man. Yeah, very nice man.
But if I'm Dave Dombrowski, right, and someone's Rob Thompson comes into my office, knocks on the door. Hey, Dave, something I need to talk to you about. This Castellanos guy isn't really happy right now. He's causing some problems. If I'm Dave Dombrowski with my feet up on my mahogany desk trying to figure out how I'm going to build this roster, you know what I say to Rob Thompson? Isn't it your job to fix that?
Right.
You're the manager.
Correct.
Go manage it.
Manage me can is personalities.
Right.
Manage personalities.
And Dave Dombrowski, some people will look like you brought it up. Hey, like, why didn't you move on from this guy sooner? Well, if my manager comes to me like, I can't work with this player or I can't make this player content.
Right.
Be like, oh, well, dude, part of your job is to figure it out. So that's why, to me, the buck stops with the manager right there. Dave Dombrowski has fault in the way things were handled as far as the trade stuff and maybe even the contract to begin with. But I think this is much more a Topper thing than it is the Dombrowski thing.
Yeah, and I can't disagree with you. Cannot disagree with you. The one thing I would say, though, is again, and everyone's looking today look at the parties, and it's so funny. The internet detectives. If you want to know the teammates that were trashing, if you want to know the internet people that were trashing, those quotes in Matt Gelb's piece, the players that were maybe trashing it, I would suggest you go and you do the internet detective thing. Matt Gork's pictures from the parties at Nick Castellanos' house, at Trey Turner's house, that were as recent as right before the Dodgers series. And you go look at it, and you watch Nick Castellanos Very chummy with his teammates right before the Dodger series in those pictures. Does that look like a pariah to you? Does that look like a guy who's on the outs? A guy nobody wants to hang out with? A guy who everybody was like, he's got to be out of the, you got to get him out of the clubhouse?
Doesn't seem like that.
Now, look, you can have, Connor, your point early in the show was absolutely fantastic to me. Was that we all have worked with people who we love who can be an ass.
Yeah, exactly.
But we still love them.
Yes.
We love them. And that could be the case, that you love somebody and they're your teammate and you love them and everything like that, but then they'll do something at work and you're like, oh my gosh, what did he do?
Yeah, like what in the world?
What are you doing, dude? Dude, but we love you. And Nick Castellanos, go look at the pictures and see what teammate is not in the pictures. And then you decide, and amongst the team leaders, what team leader's missing from the pictures? And then you could maybe figure out who's telling Matt Gelb, this guy's got to get out. We got to get rid of him. Bad guy in the clubhouse. Got to move. You might be able to figure it out. Because the guy's smiling with him in the at the parties 2 days before the Dodger series, I would bet, what is the term? The Sopranos term? The dollars to donuts. I'll bet dollars to donuts it wasn't Trey Turner. I'll bet dollars to donuts it wasn't Kyle Schwarber. I don't believe that they would be two-faced guys with their arms around him or posing for pictures next to him or having a beer with him and a steak and then behind the back going, yeah, get rid of this a-hole. Who wasn't there?
Yeah, I understand. I completely understand what you're saying. I don't think you're off base with the way that you're evaluating that. And the one thing to remember is that there were multiple players quoted in this Matt Gelb article. And this was not just a concerted effort by like one guy who didn't like somebody else. And also, this was a move that was coming whether these quotes were out or not. This is not, hey, somebody went to Dave Dombrowski and said, you got to cut Nick Castellanos.
Right.
There's also the baseball side of this. The fit of the player, the weakness on defense, the inconsistent play, the contract amount
and
that you're
$20
committed.
million on the books. And by the way, in June, that's $30 million.
Yeah.
So you have to go to your boss, John Middleton, and go, if you wanted to say, people are saying, why did you tell him to go away?
Yeah.
You got to go to John Middleton and say, by the way, you're going to eat $30 million.
Right. I don't think anyone went to Dombrowski and was like, you have to get this guy out of here. I think that it was known the situation, the determination was made by the organization that they needed to move on from him because of what the situation was, not just the testament of like one person. And then that is where we got to.
Sean, what do we got on the text line?
All right, first up, we have Mike from Virginia saying, it's fair to judge Casty on production for money, but spiking his character on the way out is BS. Everyone's got an agenda.
Yeah, they definitely have an agenda. And as I said, if former Major League Baseball player and now analyst saying to me today, this doesn't play well in Major League Baseball circles with players.
No, it doesn't. But to counter that texter's point, right, it's not just spiking his character on the way out. That Miami incident was a very publicly reported thing. We didn't know what he said, but we knew that there was a conflict with Rob Thompson during an active game that was seen by other players in the dugout. It's not like all of a sudden we're just hearing, hey, Nick Castellanos didn't get along with some people. That was out there. We didn't know the extent. But it's not like, oh, he's great. He gets along with everybody, including the manager and the hitting coach. And then the second he's not with the organization, you're like, just kidding. He sucked. So this did exist, and I don't think they're spiking his character on the way out. I think they're releasing stuff that pushes you in that direction, but I think Nick has a lot more fault than that texter was giving.
I think that the absolutely it is a problem. Nick Castellanos, again, and we reiterate, Nick Castellanos is the villain of the story.
Yes.
But I do believe they're spiking his character on the way out.
I don't think they're helping it. But I think Nick Castellanos led them to the spike.
And I believe that lots of people had an agenda in trying to make you not want to like him on the way out the door. All right, coming up, more your text and calls. You want to slip in a call, you can, 610-632-0975. Now, also, How do they move on from this from here? And do you believe this is going to have some ramifications on this organization moving forward? Kincade Salciunas with Connor in for Andrew on 97.5 The Fanatic. Hey, if you're getting ready to move or you're finally going to clean out that garage, my buddy Joe, he really needs to do this. You know what he needs? He needs a bagster, the dumpster in a bag. It is so good, and it's just $29.99. I've even offered to bring one over to his house for him and give him some free labor. Look, it's sold at Home Depot, Lowe's, and local home improvement stores. What is it? A 3-cubic-yard dumpster in a bag. Honestly, it's lightweight. It's easy. I can set one up. It's not rocket science. You set up a bagster at your convenience, and then you fill it with all the junk and all the debris and everything you want from the remodeling project, the junk you want to get out of your house or whatever. Then you just call for pickup, and it'll be gone. There's no time limits. It's completely on demand. The Bagster is so innovative and so different, and it's not going to be like one of those big clumpy big metal ones you got to bring to your driveway. Go to thebagster.com, find the store nearest you, and get more details. I'm telling you right now, you want to clean it up? 2026 is going to be the year of the cleanup. It's the Bagster with the dumpster in a bag.
Now on 97.5 The Fanatic Sports Update.
Nick Castellanos' time in Philadelphia is over. I'm Sean Rodman, and moments before his release, Nick Castellanos posted on his Instagram a letter to Phillies fans, as well as a letter addressing the Miami incident. Castellanos admitted to bringing a beer into the dugout after he was benched last June in his hometown of Miami, which is against league rules. Dave Dombrowski spoke yesterday and addressed the Miami incident.
That was 7 months ago, so it's a long time ago. We spoke about it at the time we had been arrested at the time, Rob Thompson and I did with Nick. That wasn't the final or determining factor, because if that was, we would have done that at that particular time. So just.
The Phillies' first Grapefruit League game is not until next Saturday, the 21st, and NBA All-Star Weekend is underway. VJ Edgecombe will participate in the Rising Stars round robin on Vince Carter's team tonight. Tyrese Maxey will participate in the three-point contest on Saturday and will start in the All-Star game on Sunday. Team USA men's hockey won its first game at the Olympics yesterday, 5-1 over Latvia. They're back in action tomorrow. This update's brought to you by Uber Eats. You hungry? Good thing Uber Eats has a great deal waiting for you at Las Scalas. From now until March 31st, get a buy one, get one deal on Rigatoni Vodka on the app. Order now only on Uber Eats. Terms apply. See app for details. I'm Sean Rodman on the home of the Sixers, Flyers, and the best Birds coverage, 97.5 The Fanatic and the Fanatic app.
Middays with
Marks. You guessed it with me, John Marks. That's coming up at 10 o'clock. Let's get back to more of Kincade and Salciunas right here on 97.5 The Fanatic.
The final hour of Kincade and Salciunas is presented to you by The Bagster. It's a dumpster in a bag. You can get yours today at Home Depot and Lowe's. You need details? Go to Bagster.com. I am very intrigued by the dialogue today. Has been really, really good on the Nick Castellanos story, and we appreciate everybody who has chimed in on the phone lines at 610-632-0975. Those who have texted in. A lot of texts this morning, right, Rodman? At 610-632-0975. We're going to get to more of those. But I expected more vitriol. It seems like people are actually listening today, though, where people are accepting that this story does have two sides to it.
Yeah, we did not get that on Unfiltered yesterday.
What was it?
A lot of
Nick's
people.
the bad guy,
Yeah.
Philly's the good guy?
Yes, a lot of people very much anti-Castellanos to the point of going overboard.
Okay.
And I think what this is the more that people have the chance, because not everybody goes and reads the Matt Gelb article. Some people just hear the breaking news on the Fanatic, and they're like, I need to get in on this. I need to hit the text line. We love when you do that.
We do too, yeah.
But I think as more people actually get a chance to read everything that's out about this and evaluate the story fully, you understand what we've been trying to break down today, just how deep this goes and how many parties you can point to that let this get to where it was.
And it does, and there's a lot of, look, the Phillies are not the villain of the story. But if you paint the Phillies as being blameless here, I think you're naive. I think you're incredibly naive to this story as far as the different issues. Rob Thompson, again, strikes me as substitute teacher syndrome, and he has for a while. And Dave Dombrowski, to me, has been sort of derelict in his duties. But I apologized earlier to Rob. I like when he ended Nick's streak, I criticized it and said, "What are you doing? It seems so punitive." I didn't know the beer story. The beer story makes it completely. It was completely in his rights to do that.
Yeah, they held back.
And they covered that story up because Nick would have been in much bigger trouble, and they could have had Nick suspended and kept his salary away from him and conduct detrimental to the team and everything for that.
It sounds like they covered his ass for a lot of stuff during his time here at Philly.
And the thing is, have you ever known those people in the workplace? People that are, or in your family, people that are covered for, accommodated for, everything like that, catered to, and they keep on screwing up. And then when they screw up, people are like, well, wait a minute, why are you getting on me? And it's like, well, you facilitate it. You don't stop it early on.
Yeah.
And
then the problem, because it's a big family here. There's 26 kids with the Philadelphia Phillies. They're not the daycare anymore, but there's a lot of stuff to manage. It's not just one kid's right, one kid's wrong, and the youngest always gets the preferential treatment.
Hey,
My brother
I'm
always
the
got
youngest,
that too.
and that's a bunch of BS.
That definitely tracks.
All right, let's play it to this, and I put it to you this way, because did you just do high school and collegiate ball? Did you do the travel ball thing?
I did travel ball. I played a little semi-pro after college too.
Okay, so Jimmy sends along a note. And Jimmy is now a major, having had two kids, he says, John, having had two sons go through the travel ball circuit. I will sound like a hypocrite now, but I realize how bad the travel ball circuit is. He said, both of my sons got partial college scholarships to play baseball. One of them played D1, one of them played D3. I do consider it a very positive experience that they both did it. But in retrospect, I believe that the amount of athletes that come out of the travel ball industry, and he calls it industry, creates a very entitled athlete syndrome. And he says, and the more that I hear about Nick Castellanos, and the more that I watch the Phillies, it seems as if they have a lot of players on there that came out of the travel ball circuit. In fact, they did. And he said, to me, I think it explains a lot about why the management of the Phillies does not have total control of their situation.
I think there are a lot of really good points.
So, explain what you think for those who didn't do the travel ball. I did not do travel ball.
Yeah.
So if you could tell me, I barely made it to the Broomall Babe Ruth.
Okay, so here's the thing, right? Like, let's go back in the day where you grow up and you play for your little league team. and then you play for your high school team, and then maybe you're lucky enough to go and play
Right.
college ball or whatever. It's all local. It's all kids you know. You're not traveling around the country to play all these different places. You're not getting all of these like uniforms and stuff. A lot of these teams are sponsored. There's not the money involved on the parental side that's put into it. It's an investment, and it is an industry to play travel baseball. And when you do that as a kid and you're brought up in this idea of like, hey, we're this organization that travels around, and you have all of these showcases and all of this opportunity to be seen, it does lead to the feeling of not being a professional at like 12, 13, 14 years old, but it feels like a job. It does. And when you do that, it feels like, hey, this is what I do. And if you come up through that and you're one of the great players and you get all these opportunities to travel around, you are special from a very young age. And for some people who are treated that way and put into those situations, I can imagine having that ego.
Did every kid that you played college baseball with come out of travel ball?
I believe so. Yeah, I want to say yes. I'd be surprised if someone didn't.
Because the way he's pointing it out, he says the travel ball mentality industry, he said, creates a certain entitled athlete.
Yeah, I think so. I think that's a fair point by him there.
Now, if you haven't seen this, and we have him on the show often, Jeff Francoeur has his podcast. And if you go, just Google it, Jeff Francoeur podcast. He's created a podcast that has now become very popular, where he brings on professional athletes. And they talk about the youth sports industry. And he brings on pro athletes of all sports to come on and talk about keep your kids away from that industry because it's bad for them. And he brings on executives to say it's not great for them. Your kid doesn't have to specialize in baseball at 10. And he'll bring on baseball executives and say your kid should not be playing 170 games of baseball when they're 10 and 11.
Yeah,
to get to the major leagues.
The tough
kids should be playing as many sports as they can.
Right. The tough thing is it's such a pay-to-play, to use a video game term, type of industry now or issue with travel ball. It's not just baseball. The basketball circuit has the same thing going on. Like,
well,
hockey,
the AAU definitely does.
Yeah, that's the thing. If you don't do it and you don't go to these showcases, you're not getting – that's where all the college coaches are. That's where scouts are. There's very little way to circumvent the travel ball circuit. So you have to do it.
Well, that's where Jeff's podcast will tell you do not. And he'll bring on the pro executives that'll say you do not.
If
you are an exceptional athlete, you do not.
Exactly.
So if your kid is in other words, if your kid's good enough to go to pro baseball, you don't have to.
Yeah, but how many kids are good enough to go to pro baseball, and how many kids are good enough at that age? Like, we hear stories all the time. Baseball is a great sport for it because of how big the minor leagues are, where it's just like, hey, we had no idea who this guy was. Got no offers. Nothing happened. Right. He was undrafted. He signed, and the next thing you know, he's working his way up through the minors. But you get lost in the shuffle a lot if you don't do that stuff.
I just worry about how this organization's going to look to outsiders now. How do you think the organization looks? Now, the thought is John Middleton will just have to wallet whip people. But he had to wallet whip Nick Castellanos to come here. How'd that work out? He had to wallet whip JT Realmuto to come back. JT Realmuto had to be cajoled to come back by Kyle Schwarber.
Now, that happened the other time that JT needed to be re-signed here, and that worked out fine, where he has not had a problem with the organization.
No, but I'm saying is, I'm talking about moving forward.
Yeah.
Are the Phillies just going to get players because they overpay for them? Because does this organization, if you were a free agent, does this look like a place where you're going, yeah, that clubhouse sounds fun? That organization, on the way out the door, if they don't like you, that organization is going to hit. Organization's going to hit you on the way out the door.
Yeah, not on this one story. I still think it's a very attractive place to play because, one, the money is there. That's part of it. But, two, it's a contending team. It is a market, right, in Philadelphia where you know you're going to get a passionate fan base. Like, I still think you're going to have players who want to play here. But I wouldn't be surprised if there are one-offs that do not because of that. And any opportunity you lose when you're trying to compete at this level hurts the bottom line of what your baseball team could be. There is something more on the moving forward part, though, where I think about, and this is just, there's no way to quantify this.
Okay.
But if all of this coming out about Nick Castellanos is true, And if the locker room really was, it did have as big of a rift as it sounds like from the Matt Gelb Athletic article, what could be the possible upside of the team this year without Nick Castellanos? Not just from like the baseball standpoint, but do you think this is hey, now that he is not here and we are not dealing with this distraction, is there a higher ceiling for the Phillies now? I don't think they did not win the World Series because Nick Castellanos was a distraction. That's not it.
Could it be a exhale moment where just it's a little more relaxed?
Yes, and I don't know how much that translates to wins or your ability to compete for a World Series, but I can't imagine that it won't be a more comfortable environment this year without Nick Castellanos than it was with what's being reported. And what does that translate into? I don't know, but I'll be watching very closely.
Yeah, and it's something to watch, and even in the spring when they get past this story, when the players get past their first interviews and everything, having to talk about it, that's an interesting way to look at it, Connor. Good job. That's an interesting thought. Maybe it helps everybody to just be a little more loose because there won't be a potential distraction.
And God knows they could use it.
Oh, absolutely, because they are tight in the sphincter, baby. When it comes to any kind of pressure, this team is tight. Can't put a piece of two-ply between the cheeks. All right, coming up, Sean Rodman will have the last check of the text line. Plenty of your texts. And also, I have a quiz for the boys. Rodman's not married yet. Connor's on the market. What are single women looking for in the love department? It's Valentine's Day weekend, and I've got a little quiz. I wonder if Rodman and Connor will be able to pass the test. Kincade Salciunas on 97.5 The Fanatic. I'm going to tell you this. You want a live bet? You want a live bet only on the Bet Parks app. Live bet the Pro Basketball All-Star Game this Sunday. Usually you're betting overs, but they have all these cockamamie games going on this weekend. Do your research. Plus, there's Olympic hockey going on. There's always other ways to win. You got college hoops and more. You got the big tournament coming up next month. We got baseball around a month or so away from the real games. Plus, your favorite classic casino games are right there on your phone right now. Play blackjack, craps, roulette, hundreds of online slots. Plus, you can bet all your favorite sports and bet individual player performances if you don't want to bet point spreads. New users get up to $1,000 in casino bonus back if you're down in your first 24 hours. Check out betparks.com and get all the details for you. There's always other ways to win and to be entertained when you're playing on the BetParks online casino and sportsbook app. You got to be 21, and you need to be in Pennsylvania, Jersey, or Michigan. Look, if you have a gambling problem, I implore you to please call 1-800-GAMBLER.
The Fanatic.
All right. We have the test coming up. We'll see if Rodman or Connor knows single women more. Rodman in a relationship, Connor not. So we'll see if who has better read on single women. But I want to hear because it's Valentine's Day weekend. Hopefully everybody has a great Valentine's Day weekend. By the way, I scored 4 out of 5.
Ooh, pretty darn good.
Yeah, I did 4 out of 5. So we'll see if you guys get 4 out of 5. Which one of you gets it? I want to get the text line, though. The Nick Castellanos story has blown up today. Middays with Marks is going to be all over it. They're going to be with it. You want to have unfiltered. And obviously getting to hear Ricky Batalico's opinion on it. I got to hear some of that yesterday. It was great. Now Ricky's, I'm sure, has gotten to get more information on it. So I'm sure you're not going to miss a minute of that. So just stick with the Fanatic all day long. What do you got, Sean Rodman?
Yeah, we have a number of first-time texters that have wanted to share their own stories and interactions with Nick Castellanos.
Oh, welcome.
And one person checking in saying, I've taken my sons to many games over the last 4 seasons and have waited with my sons for autographs from the players. To the only player that consistently stopped rain or shine, multiple people or no people waiting, was Nick Castellanos. Just saying, I can't always believe what the team puts out.
I would absolutely understand that.
Yeah.
You can't believe because there was the players who are quoted. Remember, when you do anonymous quotes, you can never try. And look, they taught us this in journalism school, at least at my journalism school, Klein College. They will teach you that Temple University, that an anonymous quote, they're part of the reason of being anonymous is someone doesn't want to put their name to it. So you always know there could be an agenda behind it.
Yeah, absolutely.
But your job is to report the anonymous quote.
Yes. And
attribute it to a team source, a player source. Your job is not to interpret the quote. Your job is not to say, the person gave this quote, but I don't believe it. Your job is just to report the quote.
Yeah, and there are two different things here, right? Nick Castellanos, said it right off the rip. Good guy, bad attitude in his time here in Philadelphia. It doesn't mean he's a terrible person. It doesn't mean he wasn't liked by some folks in that locker room. Maybe at points all the guys in that locker room for certain things, but the bottom line is the baseball team. This isn't a clubhouse, it's a clubhouse, but it's not you're sitting around hanging out, cracking beers, unless you're in the middle of a game like Nick Castellanos in Miami. There's another line that needs to be met as far as good teammate and putting the team in best position to be successful, and it doesn't sound like he met that.
There you go. What's another one, Sean?
All right, another one. D from Delaware checks in reference to the hitting coach and not listening for Nick. He goes, who is he listening to? Because evidently they're not helping him either.
Yeah, with the making fun of the low and outside swinging and everything like that. Listen, you should listen to the coaches. You should. John, your point earlier, I think, was very fair about, hey,
if he's disrespectful of Rob Thompson or of Kevin Long, then he's in the wrong 100%.
Yeah.
But if he doesn't trust their guidance, he's not necessarily wrong. He's not necessarily wrong. He knows much more about hitting Major League pitching than they both do. Because he did. He's done it.
Yeah.
He's done it. And he knows what it's like. You can't tell me. Someone who's never done major market sports talk radio can ever tell me more about it than I can.
And at the same time, I could tell you that Nick Castellanos is a dude that doesn't really buy into that stuff to begin with. Has been on the record with that. So he has
a negative going in.
Right, and I don't think he's the person to be putting that message out of who you should be listening to coaching-wise.
Good. All right. I want to give you the little end with a little fun today. A little Valentine's Day quiz. It's 5 questions. And our friends at Cosmopolitan Magazine, single women, and these are single women under the age of 35. And it's a series of questions. I only took 5 of them. And it all surrounds Valentine's Day. So, Sean Rodman, you get to give your answer first, and Connor, then we'll do a thing on this first one, and then you can go back in first. Single women asked, and we're talking about 300 single women, so that's a pretty good sampling size, under the age of 35. And by the way, they're all above 21. So 21 to 35. For around Valentine's Day, these are all relationship-type questions. Is a first date kiss expected? If the date went well. I didn't get it all out there. Is a first date kiss expected if the date went well. Rodman, you go first. Now, this is, and I'm giving you have to give the majority, 300 women answer the question. You have to get the majority. What did the majority of the women say? What is your vote?
I think today's day and age, no. I think that it's different than maybe previously.
Okay.
I would say yes.
Connor with a point.
Thank you.
If the date went
You got to
well.
step your game up back there, Sean.
If the date went well, it is expected that a first date kiss is expected. The guy should go in for a kiss. The guy should read the room, read the vibe.
Yeah, you got to feel it out.
Read the emotion, and go in for a kiss. Now, it is not expected to be by the way, too aggressive. All right. Chocolates or not as a Valentine's Day gesture?
I'm going to go no.
Yeah.
Rodman with the gift. Yuri 1-1.
You got to do more
Women
than
like
chocolates.
that. Yeah, but women like it.
Yeah,
if a guy go with chocolates, that's a nice gift. They like it. It's as a gesture.
Nah, it's too mainstream,
It's
man.
1-1. No, women. The majority said. But by the
sorry,
way,
women,
Connor,
you're
to your point, 163 out of 300.
yeah,
So it was very
close.
close. It was very close. So you're 1-1. Flowers as a door opening gift or not
On a first date?
on a date.
On a date? Yes.
I'll go yes as well.
You're both correct.
Yeah, that's a no-brainer.
Women love them. Women love them. 239 out of 300 like the flowers.
I'll never get it.
Guys.
I can't smell, so that is not for me. But
okay. Split the check on a first date.
No.
yeah, as many times as Sean said no.
No.
Come
Okay,
on,
you guys are even.
What are we doing?
You guys
out
are
there?
even going into the first one. I can't believe this was it. All right, last one. I wonder if you guys are going to get this right. Meet me or pick me up at my place for a first date.
Pick me up.
Meet me.
So you're going different on this one. I like
Yes,
it.
we are.
Connor with the win, and it's how about this? 158 to 142.
So here's the thought process, right?
Women don't want guys today to know where they live.
Exactly.
So how I guess when I was dating, what I did and with my girlfriend Jordan, I offered to pick her up, but I kind of put the ball in her court. I said, "Would you rather meet me, or I could pick you up?"
I think it's because of the dating apps, and that's what they said is that because of dating apps are so many.
Yeah, you don't want to feel the commander
meet out in a public place. So Rodman, you got beat by Connor on this one there. So hope everybody has a great Valentine's Day on that one. We put a bow on this conversation today. That look, there's one villain in the story, and it's Nick Castellanos.
Yeah.
Make it clear. But the Phillies are not heroes.
No, they're not.
The Phillies are not admirable in this story. And the Phillies mismanaged this situation in so many different ways.
If I had told you a year ago that there was going to be this much of a messy exit for Nick Castellanos, I don't think you would have believed me. And with that, we knew that there was some contention to some level, but the fact that it has turned into this, it's not a good thing for anyone involved, and there's a lot still to settle. This news isn't even 24 hours old. You're going to get more on this, and we're going to be here for you when it comes out.
Shukri writes, fantastic job. Glad to have you in today. Listen to Shukri on the weekends. Austin Jones, we love you. Thank you for being a part of things. Great job, Rodman, stepping up. Andrew out. Connor, always great. We hope you have a great Valentine's Day weekend, and we hope you don't turn the dial all day long. Middays with Marks, followed by Unfiltered. Stick around with the